connection with a crash that claimed the lives of school children. Dashcam footage widely shared online shows a taxi overtaking multiple cars before crashing into a truck. He also faces 3 counts of attempted murder and 1 count of reckless and negligent driving. Mongezi Koko reports.
At his first court appearance, Lula was met by a heavy media presence as the country reacted to a crash that claimed the lives of young school children in a matter of moments. During his second appearance, his legal team told the court he was remorseful following the tragic incident. The state requested postponement to allow the National Prosecuting Authority to finalize the appropriate charges given the serious nature of the case. The offences he faces fall under Schedule 5 and 6 of the Criminal Procedure Act, meaning he will have to provide compelling reasons if he is to be granted bail. The vehicle he was driving was also allegedly overloaded, with questions still lingering over its roadworthiness. Mongezi Koko, Eyewitness News.
DA new leader Jordan Hill-Lewis says he sees no problem with some of the party's senior leaders being remunerated from the organization's coffers. Hill-Lewis says the party can spend its money that it has raised through its own efforts as it sees fit. Last month, a leaked party document that revealed monthly party stipends upwards of 50,000 rand in some cases set tongues wagging. Lindsay Dentlinga reports.
Among DA members who have been receiving funds in addition to their public office bearer salaries include former party leader John Steenhuisen, former Tshwane Mayor Celius Brink and Deputy Finance Minister Asho Sarapan. New leader Jordan Hill-Lewis says the new federal executive is yet to meet and discuss the matter, but on the face of it, he has no issue with the party rewarding its senior leaders.
It's the DA's money that we've raised through fundraising. It's not, we would never ever abuse state resources. And so, what we do with and how we choose to remunerate our senior office bearers is entirely a DA internal matter.
Meanwhile, Hill-Lewis has appointed Leon Schreiber to manage the cabinet caucus since Hill-Lewis doesn't plan to enter national government.
The minutiae of the running of the state and cabinet, he's more than capable of showing leadership on that front.
Hill-Lewis has also confirmed a first meeting with President Cyril Ramaphosa, saying while he won't be sharing details, the engagement was fruitful and positive. Lindsay Dentlinger, Eyewitness News.
And Iran has called on the United Nations to condemn the seizure of the United States by the United States of an Iranian cargo ship, labeling the move an act of piracy and a breach of the ceasefire between the two countries. U.S. President Donald Trump announced on Sunday that the U.S. Navy had fired on and then taken control of the Tuska cargo ship in the Sea of Oman. Trump says the Iran-flagged vessel is subject to U.S. sanctions. Iran's ambassador to the UN, Amir Saeed Arivani, says the move is an act of aggression under the terms of the UN Charter. Trump has now announced that he is extending the truce with Iran to allow more time to negotiations, but will maintain a U.S. naval blockade of the country's ports. Gold is trading at $4,758.40 an ounce. The rand is at 16.49 to the dollar, 22.28 to the pound, 19.36 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $98.39 a barrel.
There's a stop and go on the M1 South between the Baku Interchange and Corlett Drive. While traveling in Sandton, we've got an accident reported. This one is along Sandton Drive. It's reported right near Alice Lane is causing delays. Please be on the lookout there and approach with care. There's also slow-moving traffic in Parkmore along Winnie Mandela Drive towards Sandton Drive.
A cloudy day in store for Gauteng with scattered showers and thunder showers expected. The temperatures will peak at highs between 20 and 21 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour. The Pretoria North Magistrates Court will hand down judgments on bail this morning for disgraced police officer Fanny Nkosi.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
You're with Clement Manyathela
On 702.
Let's Walk the Talk, streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856.
92.7 and 106 FM.
8 minutes after 9 o'clock. Dumelang, welcome to the Clement Manyathela Show on this 22nd day of April. It's good to have you with us here on 702. I hope you're good this morning. The 702 open line starts now. My goodness, there's so much that's happening. But also there's so much that I want to talk to you about on the open line this morning. So give us a call on 011-883-0702. WhatsApp's on 0727021702 if you want to join the conversation. So just after 9:30, I'm going to bring in on the radio the controversial Madibeng mayor, Douglas Maimane. The ANC, the Sowetan is reporting that the ANC has decided to recall him. Fikile Mbalula confirmed it to Times Live yesterday that the party has decided to remove him from his position. And remember, the Sunday Times reported that this mayor was recorded offering opposition councillors about 200,000 rand to campaign against the ANC. And then when he realized, this mayor, that these councillors, these opposition councillors that he was in a meeting with were recording that meeting, he then sent them lawyers' letters saying, if you dare release that audio, I'm going to sue you. Well, the audio has been released and now he seems to have lost his job. He's agreed to speak to us, so I'm going to bring him up just after 9:30. But what I want us to start the conversation with this morning is around what's happened at the Social Development Department. Believe it or not, there's another scandal involving the Minister of Social Development, Sisisi Tolashe. The Daily Maverick has just dropped this morning another investigation into the minister. This time it involves a special advisor who seems to have lied on his CV in order to get the job of special advisor to Tolashe. So, that other lady who's 22 years old, who lied on her CV to be the chief of staff for the minister and had to be let go because she has lied. Well, the advisor to the minister seems to have gone through a similar route as well. No wonder this minister is in such a mess, because she had a chief of staff who doesn't even qualify, doesn't have the requisite experience to be the chief of staff, and she has an advisor who has seemingly has lied throughout his CV. And I'm going to tell you what the Daily Maverick have found. It's actually quite shocking. So over the last 5-6 months, I'm sure I've counted about 6 or 5 scandals that this minister has been involved with. But we need to ask some serious questions about whether due diligence is being done when it comes to vetting applicants for some of the most senior positions in government. Because the fact that this minister had a chief of staff that didn't have the experience, didn't even qualify for that position, lied on her CV, the fact that she also currently, as we speak, still has an advisor that seemingly has lied on his CV, speaks volumes and talks to the lack of due diligence in government. Or maybe due diligence is being done, but the ministers use their prerogative, quote unquote, to justify some of the decisions that they take. So what I'm going to do on the open line is just explain to you, please bear with me. It's quite a long story that the Daily Maverick has done this morning, but trust me, it's worth it, because they've done such a thorough investigation at following this special advisor and what he has said on his CV. So I'll take you through that in a moment. But I'm also interested in your thoughts about what transpired at the Madlanga Commission yesterday. The suspended Tshwane CFO, Gareth Mnisi, concluded his testimony. And honestly, I mean, listening to him, this is a guy who thought probably was going to explain his way out of the corner that he has put himself into. He finally conceded that there was a perception of conflict of interest in his serving on the bid adjudication committee while maintaining a close relationship with Sergeant Fanny Nkosi, who was linked to companies that were vying for tenders. I mean, really, if this guy is as smart as everybody else think he is, isn't this an obvious thing? You sit on the bid adjudication committee, and yet you've got a close relationship with Sergeant Fanny Nkosi, who's a very compromised cop, by the way. You know about what's been revealed so far at the Madlanga Commission about his involvement in the rot in the police. You are the CFO. You sit on the bid adjudication committee, and you are close friends with Sergeant Fanning Nkosi, who is linked to companies that are vying for tenders. The same man who's also asking you, help my brother out. So this Gareth Mnisi chap was at pains during the testimony yesterday to explain that despite referring to Sergeant Nkosi as his brother, he did not commit any fraud to benefit Nkosi's real brother, his name is Beki, who was bidding for tenders in Tshwane. So I wonder what you made of Gareth Mnisi's testimony, because the commissioners seems to be growing tired of his verbosity, and he seemed to be avoiding so many questions. Here's some of what he said when he was asked about the conflict of interest that existed because of his friendship with Fanning Nkosi, whose brother was bidding for tenders at Tshwane Metro, and Fanning Nkosi was asking the CFO to actually help his brother out. Here's how Gareth Mnisi tried to explain that.
At that particular point in time, I'm going to cover this question. At this point in time, Chair, I did not perceive that as an interest, purely based on the fact that, firstly, my bias or my objectivity was not impaired. I did not know Begi. He's not an associate of mine. I agree, the brother is an associate of mine, but Begi is not an associate of mine whatsoever. I only have engagement with Sergeant Nkosi. So I knew from that perspective that, firstly, my bias was not going to be, my objectivity, was not going to be impaired whatsoever. Second to that, the BAC is a panel-based decision-making body. It's not one individual. There are a number of subject matter experts who sit throughout that process, meaning objectivity is further enhanced. Chairperson, I also want to confirm on the TMPD1 matter, which we are raising. There are score sheets that were provided to me as part of the bundle. Within this bundle, I think it's the fourth bundle, independent members scored all bidders accordingly, which gives an indication that these bidders were compliant by the 11th of April. That's when the score sheets were signed, and that's an essential date for us to consider. Lastly, Chair, on the basis of my objectivity not being impaired, because I don't know Begi, I'm not Begi's friend. Yes, I'm his brother's friend, I can concur, and I have admitted that. At that point in time, I saw that my objectivity would not be impaired whatsoever, and I signed the declaration. Further to that, a panel-based decision-making process where there are a number of subject matter experts within BAC, including legal services, also assurance that my objectivity wouldn't have been affected. However, Chair, in hindsight, when we are discussing all of these matters, I need to agree that now when we're discussing these matters, there is a perception of conflict, that it's clear and it's apparent, and I can't avoid that. However, what I'm certain on is that when I signed this declaration form, from my perspective, my objectivity was not impaired whatsoever. It remains not impaired at this point in time. It was a panel-based decision-making process with a number of subject matter experts who would have equally made their views and objectives to this matter.
So that is him, of course, just over-explaining some things. That's why the commissioners were actually getting frustrated with him. If you followed that testimony and you've got comments, please let me know. You know, there are people who think they're so smart that they're going to wiggle their way out. Well, wait until you meet Senior Counsel Chuckleson, my dear. Then you'll see. Because a lot of them come there so confident, thinking, I'm so smart, I'm going to explain my way out. The most basic of things. The most basic of things you're unable to explain. And then you want to say, oh yeah, now we concede because it's in hindsight. Please, we're not children. We know how corruption happens at these metros, at local government. It's not, in hindsight, I realized that this was wrong. You probably knew exactly what you were doing when you were involved. I hope more investigations are going to be conducted here. At 10 o'clock, we're going to be in conversation with the Minister of Communications and Digital Technology, Solly Maladzi. And then at 11 o'clock on our Listener's Choice feature, we are going to be understanding police rankings. We will unpack, because this is something that many of us encounter every day, right? And yet we don't fully understand police ranks. So someone is going to come and explain that to us. And then we wrap up the show at 11:30 with the sharing space. That's the show coming up over the next 3 hours.
Clement Manyathela. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856
92.7
and 106 FM.
Hi, Clement. Nisi thought that he'd talk his way out of the commission. I mean, you are connected to the mafia. Why even communicating to these mafia guys? I mean, that alone, it's not even a red flag. I mean, it just warrants you to go to jail, definitely. Why are you even talking to the likes of Fani and Sbanyoni and you sending them the council's confidential information?
Clemmy, more man. Floris here from the beautiful Western Cape. Gerrit Menezi. I think this guy was pre-programmed. He could not stop talking and over-explaining himself. If you're giving too much detail, that's a sign of someone hiding something. Too much detail, never give too much detail. But yeah, he thinks he's clever, but not with those 3 judges there. Not a chance. I think he is in for a surprise after they're making their recommendations. Have a good job. Bye-bye.
Good morning, Clement and your team. Gareth Mnisi Clement, after his last day of testifying, it will be exactly like Julius Mkwanazi of Ekurhuleni. He's going to jail. He's going to be arrested after the revelation of fraud for the company that they allegedly given the tender, while the compliance of that company, it was huge questionable. And his friendship with Nkosi raised a lot of eyebrows from Max in Pretoria.
I mean, you're right, Max. How does a CFO who seemingly has been brilliant at his job, you know, when you look at what he has done since he's been in Tshwane, well, a lot of people are saying this is someone who was good at his job. How does he not understand conflict of interest? How are you connected to such compromised people who are asking you for information about tenders for you to help their brothers, and you don't think that's conflict of interest, and yet you sit on the bid adjudication committee? Come on. Well, I just want us to also take a moment to appreciate the Madlanga Commission. Can we just appreciate Justice Madlanga, Advocate Sandile Khumalo, Advocate Sesi Baloyi, Senior Counsel Chakalson, Advocate Sillo, and the other evidence leaders. They have been so incredible. And these are people who are spending, some of them sleep in the early hours of the morning because they are reading through affidavits. They're reading through investigation reports so that when they have to question these guys, they know their story. And my goodness, do they know their story. So, if they are listening, or their loved ones are listening, this is another moment of appreciation for their stellar work. Thank you. Because what you are exposing there is really helping us get somewhere as a country. It's really exposing the rot, the belly. And this would not happen if these were just lawyers who don't know what they're doing, who are winging it. They're not winging it. These people are reading. You can tell. They've gone and done their research. They've read these reports. So when they come and they ask you questions, you better come and know your story. The fact that you are so articulate, you speak the best English, is not going to fly. Because they pay attention to detail. We are so blessed. And may they know that we appreciate the work that they do. I mean, some of them are so old, and yet they still find time to compromise time with family, to read, so that they're able to reveal the truth for us. We're truly grateful. It's 22 after 9.
Africa Milani.
Weekday mornings,
4 to 6.
Dr. Mampela Rampela has argued in an opinion piece that we should do away with maths literacy.
Like we have AI that is learning, our learners at school are also learning. They should not be making those decisions about maths or maths lit. But teachers must make it exciting.
Glenn, you've called in from Bedford V. You've got some thoughts on this.
What makes maths lit so important? Maths builds the building blocks for logical and critical thinking that apply outside of math in everyday life. How does 1 + 1 make more, for example?
Africa Milani.
4 to 6 on 702.
The Black Hole Symphony returns to the Linda Auditorium on Thursday and Friday after last year's sold-out season. The Johannesburg Philharmonic joins Universe on stage to present a 32-piece orchestral experience of black holes. 6 movements, each one a unique black hole story, from their inception to their role in our ultimate survival as a human species. Universe on stage is reshaping live entertainment, merging science, music, and storytelling that connects audiences to the wonders of the cosmos. The Black Hole Symphony opens at the Linda Auditorium on Thursday night, and on Saturday there are 2 performances, one in the afternoon and one in the evening. For more details and to book your tickets, go to Web Tickets and look for the Black Hole Symphony.
Everything starts with a choice. For PPS, that choice was clear: to provide graduate professionals with support to create, protect, and accelerate their wealth. Because when graduate professionals support one another, progress multiplies. And together, those choices added up to a record-breaking 6.88 billion rand in profit share allocated to our members with qualifying life risk products for 2025.
At PPS, we know the whole adds up to more than the sum of its parts. Visit pps.co.za to see how it adds up for you. PPS, success is better shared. PPS is a licensed life insurer, controlling company, and authorized FSP. Profit share allocations depend on PPS's operating and investment performance.
Introduction to digital audio workstations. Digital audio engineering in the broadest sense. Recording, processing, digital audio theory. Academy of Sound Engineering. We are the highest certified avid learning partner on the African continent. Introduction to digital audio workstations is delivered within the Pro Tools framework, the highest sought after industry certification. Visit us on asc.co.za and get your application started today.
2026 is going to be a year of firsts when the Sanlam Cape Town Marathon happens for the first time in May.
Love it.
And continues to push to becoming Africa's first major. So, join Cape Town and the rest of the world when we rise again to run for gold and make history.
That's what makes this one so special.
By turning Africa's biggest marathon into Africa's first major. Putting Cape Town on the marathon stage with some of the greatest cities in the world, like London, Paris, Tokyo, Berlin.
Doesn't get better than this.
The Sanlam Cape Town Marathon, 24 May 2026.
Get ready.
The 2026 Sanlam Cape Town Marathon, proudly supported by 702. Go to capetownmarathon.com for more.
Your voice, your station,
Your open line.
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela
On 702.
26 minutes after 9 o'clock. Okay, listen up. Let's connect some dots together here. The Daily Maverick has just dropped this explosive investigation on the special advisor to Sisisi Tolashe, who is the Minister of Social Development. This special advisor's name is Mwako Khatla. Now, I love how Rebecca Davis, who is the journalist at Daily Maverick, starts the story. She starts by saying, and I quote, "How do you make certain that one of your referees on your CV won't contradict your claim of having worked for them? Well, you list someone who died in 2021. That's exactly what happened here. The special advisor to the Social Development Minister, Sisisi Tolashe, and not only him, right? His niece, Lesedi Mabileja, remember that 22-year-old who got the job as chief of staff, didn't qualify for the position, didn't have the requisite experience, and somehow she was still appointed the chief of staff for Sisisi Tolashe. She ended up being let go. She had to be fired. She resigned, I think, before the decision was taken because they messed up here. They lied on her CV. Now, both of them have actually listed the former minister. Remember the late Minister Hlengiwe Mkhize, who died in September 2021. They listed her on their references. How crazy is that? So, remember Tolashe's first taste of executive power was when she was appointed to this post of social developments back in 2023, after the previous Deputy Minister Hlengiwe Mkhize died in 2021. So my question then is, why when you're applying for a job in 2023, you're listing someone who has died in 2021? What are you trying to do? So you'll see in how I'll explain the story in a moment, and I would advise you to go read it yourself as well. I'll put up a link on Twitter. But you can see that the only significant work experience that was listed of Mabileja's CV, this is now the niece, that chief of staff, was 3 years and 9 months period, and it was updated as a volunteer in the office of Deputy Minister Hlengiwe Mkhize, providing assistance to the head office or private secretary. And the CV of the special advisor also indicates that he somehow worked closely with Mkhize, which is actually not true. So what we're going to do now is bring in Lebogang Mothibe, who is the head of office to the late Minister Hlengiwe Mkhize. Lebogang worked with the minister for quite some time, so maybe Lebogang remembers these two individuals in the office of Mkhize. Lebogang joins us now on the line. Good morning, Lebogang. Thanks for joining. Good morning.
Good morning, Clement. Thank you for having me. Just a correction, there's Mothiba.
Mothiba.
Lebogang Mothiba.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. So, Lebogang, we've got two names here. Ngwaku Khatla, he is the special advisor to the Minister of Social Development. He has put on his CV, one of the CVs that he sent to the Social Development Department when he was vetted for this, he said that part of his references was the former late Minister Hlengiwe Mkhize, because he has worked closely with the minister. His niece's name is Lesedi Mabileja. He says he's also worked in the minister's office, and what he did was provide some support to the head office and private secretary. As someone who's worked with the late former minister, are you aware of these two individuals working in her office?
Okay, Clement, let's start with Lesedi. Lesedi, I'm not aware of Lesedi. I've never worked with Lesedi. And the period she listed as having worked in the office of the deputy minister, that's the period when I was working in government with the deputy minister. I did not work with her, so I do not know her. Okay. And then as it regards to Mr. Khatla, I worked with him, but from the period August 2019, and then until somewhere around 2020.
And what was he doing? Was he working in the office of the minister?
No, he did not work in the office of the minister. If you remember, Clement, the deputy minister was reshuffled in 2018.
Yeah.
And then around that time, 2018, I think it was early 2018, March, somewhere around there. And then 2018, same year, 2018, she started an NGO called Knowledge System Education for the Fourth Industrial Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
That NGO was started or was registered with CIPRO or CIPC on the 18th or 8th of August 2018. It started from there. It got registered that August, and then we started having a strategy meeting, sort of a conference, getting advice from the experts so that we can kickstart it.
Okay,
then,
so the association was through that NGO and not in the office of the minister, as he has stated on his CV.
Yes, the association started, and only a year later, because he was introduced to me around August 2019. Remember, the NGO started in August 2018. Then he came through in August 2019. To the NGO, Knowledge System Education.
Knowledge System Solutions. Okay. This is quite something. Lebogang, thank you so much. I thought we should bring you up so that you can just clarify that to our listeners, because this is the CV that the special advisor has provided to the Social Development Department. And he's making claims here that clearly are being disputed by people like yourself, who were, you were the head of office in the late Minister Hlengiwe Mkhize's, in the late minister's office. So if anybody will know the staff complement and the people in that office, is really you. So you hear that? This advisor indicated that he had worked in the office of the minister. He even puts the minister on his CV as a reference. And yet the minister died in 2021. But you can tell here what they were trying to do is to try mesh up, find work experience here and there, lie about certain things just so that he can meet the minimum 5-year experience at the level equivalent to director level, because that's actually what qualifies you to be a special advisor. Yes, it's a prerogative of a minister, but you still need to possess a minimum 5 years experience at the level equivalent to director level. He didn't. So then he thought, okay, maybe let me go lie and say, I've worked in the minister's office at a director level. I've worked in this organization at the director level. And all those organizations were contacted by the Daily Maverick, and a lot of them said, this man has lied. I'll tell you more about what else is in this report after the latest in Eyewitness News headlines. It's 9:33. Sfiso, apologies for being late for the news. Good morning.
Thanks, Clement. Good morning. Madibeng District Police Commissioner Abraham Nkwashu will take the hot seat as the next witness at the Madlanga Commission today. Nkwashu, currently suspended from his job, has been accused of trying to unduly interfere in the murder investigation of engineer Armand Swart. A crime intelligence officer who testified as witness B previously told the commission that he received a call from Nkwashu demanding that the murder dockets be handed over to him. A scholar transport driver charged with 14 counts of murder is expected to return to the Funnelvale Park Magistrates Court this morning for a bail application. 22-year-old Ayanda Dludla was arrested earlier this year in connection with the crash that claimed the lives of school children. Dashcam footage widely shared online shows a taxi overtaking multiple cars before crashing into a truck. And Pope Leo will visit a prison known for its squalid conditions in Equatorial Guinea today as he nears the end of his Africa tour. The Pope, who arrived in the oil-rich but deeply unequal country yesterday, has already been to Algeria, Cameroon and Angola. Today, he will meet with inmates at Bata Prison, a facility criticized by rights experts for extreme overcrowding, poor sanitation, and the mistreatment of inmates. And those are the headlines. This EWN and more at 10 or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
While travelling on the N1 North in the Waterfall area, there's queuing traffic between the Baku Interchange and Allendale Road. There's also slow-moving traffic reported on the M1 South approaching the Kilani Bends. Please be on the lookout there. While travelling in Sharon Lee, queuing traffic on Malibongwe Drive towards the N1 exit. There's also queuing traffic reported in 4 ways along Winnie Mandela Drive between Leslie and Witkoppen Road. In the city of Tshwane, we've got some delays reported along the N1 North coming out of the Flying Saucer interchange, and the road has been reopened along the N4 West. It was a road closure due to an accident seen right near the Proof Plus turn off, and traffic at this particular moment is flowing and free to use. Please approach with care. More updates coming up. Stay tuned.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
It's another girl! Yes! Families multiply, fees shouldn't. With Ultimate Banking, you get support for every chapter. Get discounted banking for your spouse and give each of your children a head start with a Mega U account. Because as your family grows, your banking should keep up. Apply online. Your story matters. ABSA. Terms and conditions apply. ABSA is an authorized financial services provider.
Shane, do you have a sore throat? The Andalex range of lozenges offers 2 options. At the first signs of an irritated, scratchy throat, use Andalex lozenges for dual-action, soothing relief. But for a painful, inflamed throat, use Andalex C lozenges for triple-action, pain relief. Andalex, SA's #1 choice for a sore mouth and throat. Andalex lozenges are available at all leading pharmacies and supermarkets.
Just Andalex it. Clientele is here to safeguard you and your family with compassion because life happens. Be part of a family that truly cares. Our funeral dignity plans have helped South Africans bury their loved ones with dignity for more than 30 years. Let us help you create a meaningful tribute that honors your life and those of your loved ones. We pay out within 24 hours and you will get double accident cover with a clientele funeral plan. Our plans are affordable. Pick the option that suits your needs. It's easy to apply. No medical examinations and no paperwork. SMS funeral to 31586. That's 31586. Clientele Life is an authorized FSP and licensed life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Your voice. Your station. Your open line. Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela on 702.
It's 23 minutes before 10 o'clock. I've just read you a little bit of what the Daily Maverick has dropped this morning. Their investigation into the special advisor to the Social Development Minister, Sisisi Tolashe. His name is Mwako Khatla. And this man has basically listed a dead person as a reference. And for me, this raises some serious questions about the due diligence that is expected to be done when it comes to getting applicants for some of the most senior positions in government. No wonder Sisisi Tolashe is in such serious trouble. I mean, I don't see how she's going to last. Well, she could, if you think about it, because sometimes the ANC is more concerned about protecting itself. As comrades, they protect each other. But I really don't see how the president is not going to act at some point, even if he acts at a delayed time, because there's so much controversy around this minister. Not only did she lie in parliament and say that she received vehicles from Chinese officials, luxury vehicles that she gave to her own children. And when she was asked in parliament, why didn't you declare those? Because that's a gift. And she said, well, I didn't declare it because that wasn't a gift to me. It was actually a donation to the ANC Women's League. We brought the ANC Women's League on the show. They said we know nothing about those vehicles being donated to us. Now, on Sunday, we read that she, this minister, has told the Integrity Commission of the ANC that the reason she registered those vehicles under her children's names was to protect them, safeguard them from being seized. You don't make this stuff up, I tell you. So she was protecting them from being seized in case the ANC Women's League faces financial issues, which is also a crime if you think about it, because you are hiding assets from debtors or creditors. Now it makes sense that she gives explanations that are quite ridiculous, and maybe that's because she's got an advisor who probably shouldn't even be her advisor. This guy didn't qualify to be a special advisor to the minister, this Ngwaku Khatla guy. And here's proof of that the Daily Maverick points out in their report. They spoke to Osborne Masilela. So Osborne Masilela served as the chief director in the office of the Director General at the Department of Social Development for 17 years before taking early retirement in March this year. And Masilela says, Minister of Social Development gave him Ngwaku Khatla's CV and said, hey, I want to appoint this guy as my special advisor. Can you just vet his CV? And this Osborne Masilela guy, who was the chief director, then tells the minister, says they met on a Sunday, told the minister, this is not going to work because I went through this guy's CV and this guy does not meet the minimum requirements to be appointed at even the lowest level of special advisor. He informed the minister of this. Do you think the minister took that advice? No, the minister didn't. The minister went ahead and appointed him, even though you need to possess, at a minimum, 5 years of experience at the level equivalent to director level, with relevant experience applicable to the portfolio of these functions. This man didn't meet those requirements. Now it makes sense why he went and tried to concoct a CV and come up with all sorts of experiences so that it may seem like he's got the relevant experience. But also, what kind of a special advisor puts on his CV someone who's dead? Someone who died in 2001, in 2021, and you are applying for this job in 2023 or so. Minister Tolashe has really been a disgrace, honestly. And I think part of the reason for that is that the advice she's getting is not good advice. I mean, who advised her to give an explanation that, oh yeah, the vehicles I got, I gave them to my kids because I was trying to safeguard them from being seized? And what kind of a rational person gives a minister that advice to explain why her children have been driving around in vehicles that were supposedly donated to the ANC Women's League? So this guy has also claimed that he worked at a number of companies, right? So there's a company called COSATMA. In his CV, he stated that he worked as a communications officer for the Northwest Development, the Northwest Department of Community Safety and Traffic Management. That's COSATMA from 2021 until 2023. And then when the Daily Maverick contacted the communications services director at COSATMA, that communications director said that is not true. They could not recall anybody by Khatla's name working there. They even asked HR to check their records, and HR came back and said, we do not have anyone by this name in our system. I can go on and on. He's claimed to work for the University of Limpopo. There are many other examples. I just don't have the time, but there are many other examples that the Daily Maverick goes into. Please go check out that story. And my concern is how many other special advisors are advising our ministers and they don't even qualify to be occupying those positions. How many of them are out there? Is it no wonder then that sometimes we see slow movement of things in departments? Sometimes we see our ministers approaching things in the most despicable of ways because the advice they're getting is wild and it comes from people who shouldn't be advising them. What is the due diligence done in government to ensure that people who occupy some of these most senior positions in government actually have the experience and the qualifications for them? We are going to be in trouble if the very people that our ministers listen to the most do not qualify to be in those positions. Your WhatsApps on 072-702-1702.
Hi, Clement and team. Corruption is so deep-rooted in our society and in particular in political space that even our mothers, our aunts, our sisters who are now in positions of influence and responsibility are looting. They are chowing the money like there's no tomorrow. And they don't care. They don't care. I mean, we've been dealing with Sisisi Dolashe for so many months now that it's really becoming a concern that these are the leaders that are holding top positions in society. And worst of all, she's the Women's League president. So that means that the Women's League now is known for corruption. They are known now for promoting and tolerating corruption, and actually they are participants in corruption. This is so bad. They can now hey man, yeah.
Hi, Clement, Swale here. This is absolutely crazy. Basically, what this Minister Sotashe is doing is taking stealing to another level. So much has been stolen from the state coffers. Now she's stealing from her own political party. And her political party is doing absolutely nothing about it. I mean, what is this?
I don't think she's even stealing from the political party. These vehicles were not for the ANC Women's League anyway. She lied. Because her explanations just don't make sense. The only way she could get out of lying, because she said, I didn't declare these luxury vehicles because they were donated to the ANC Women's League. We had the ANC Women's League immediately on the show. They said, we know nothing about that. This is the same minister who had a chief of staff who doesn't have the requisite qualifications, nor the requisite experience. She's now out because I remember I called Professor, the Public Service Commissioner, Professor Somatota Fikeni. I called Professor Somatota Fikeni and I said, are you aware of what's happening at social development? There's a chief of staff there who's 22 years old. Not that that age matters, but it adds context to the story. 22 years old, doesn't have the experience to be a chief of staff, doesn't have the required qualifications, and yet we as taxpayers are paying her 1.4 million rand a year. And Professor Somatota Fikeni said, okay, thank you for alerting me. He went and started investigating as Public Service Commission. They've now produced a report. That report, they're still waiting, I think, for the minister to give her own responses. But that report is damning from what I have heard from people who've investigated the matter. It's damning on the side of the minister. When is the president going to act? By the way, we contacted Vincent Magwenya this morning to ask, is the president aware? Or because maybe the president doesn't know what's going on. Because if he does know what's going on, why the hell is he not saying anything about it? Why is he not doing anything about it? Vincent Magwenya responded and said the president is attending to the matter. Whatever that means. Let's wait and see. It's 12 minutes before 10.
702 Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa.
My show is about getting you informed by the time you get to the office, your place of business, or wherever you need to go. Hopefully, you have a fairly good idea what's happening in Johannesburg, in Gauteng, and around the world. We want you to be part of those water cooler conversations, and you will be part of those conversations because you'll be a better informed citizen. What I like about the 702 family and 702 land is the ecosystem that we have built, the community. It's all about connection because we may be different, but ultimately the people you talk to and the people you hear are facing issues just like you.
702 Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa. Weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m.
Joburg is more than a city. It's an unmistakable rhythm that brings us all together. In celebration of this, 702 has partnered with Jozi My Jozi to unite the whole of Joburg in the 702 Jozi My Jozi Walk the Talk Babiza Bonke. On Sunday, the 26th of July, we're going on a walk through the iconic Joburg CBD, and we want you to join us and be part of something special. Entries open soon. In the meantime, stay tuned to 702 and get ready for 702 Jozi My Jozi Walk the Talk, hosted by the City of Johannesburg. Walk with the people, for our Jozi. Babiza Bonke. More on primemediaplus.com.
Did you know that you are entitled to buy a new, demo, or used car without a service or a maintenance plan? You can also use an independent workshop for all servicing and maintenance needs without your warranty being automatically voided. Independent workshops are entitled to all technical info and parts needed to work on your vehicle, so you can shop around for the best price and service. Right to Repair. It's your choice. Visit righttorepair.org.za.
We at Monument Dental are very happy with the premium we're paying. I wish I did it sooner.
Outsurance business insurance clients know that it pays to switch. And did you know you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium when you switch? For dentistries, general medical practices, and all other businesses, get a quote today and see why it pays to switch to Outsurance business insurance. Visit outsurance.co.za or call 08600 60,000 today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
Your voice. Your station.
Your open line.
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela
on 702.
10 minutes before 10 o'clock. Something else we want to bring to your attention this morning on the 702 open line is around the Madibeng Mayor, Douglas Maimane. The Sowetan is reporting this morning that the Madibeng Mayor has now been recalled. The ANC has decided to recall him. Fikile Mbalula told Times Live yesterday that the party decided to remove him from his position. And this follows that Sunday Times report that they reported that this mayor offered opposition councillors 200,000 rand to campaign against his party. We've got him on the line now. This fired Madibeng Mayor Douglas Maimane. Mr. Maimane, thank you for joining us. Good morning.
Good morning, Dade and the listeners of 702.
Have you been informed of the decision by the ANC that they've recalled you as mayor?
Yes, this morning around 7 o'clock, a formal communication was given to me to tender resignation within a period of 24 hours.
Are you going to resign?
Of course, I'm going to resign.
Okay, are you admitting that what you have done is wrong?
No, not out of admitting of to the wrongfulness of what is purported to be a wrong thing I have done, but to honor the organizational protocols. Once the organization met and considered the matter, no matter how erroneous it may be, you'll have to accept the outcome of such a decision.
Okay. Did you offer 200,000 rand to opposition councillors to go and launch a campaign against your own party, the ANC? Because there's this 30-minute audio recording, which I have in my possession, where you can hear a number of people speaking. And part of what the Sunday Times reported was that you offered 200,000 rand to these opposition councillors to organize a campaign against the ANC. Did you do that?
I have not done so. I did not say that.
What did you say to them? Did you want them to go after the ANC?
I wouldn't do it. I will not do it.
What was the meeting about then with these opposition councillors?
No. The municipality was closed by some ANC councillors. And when the municipality was closed, I was also prevented from coming into the building. So I went to another place, and these councillors called me to seek clarity on the reasons as to why there is closure of the municipal building. So in the informal engagements with me, and remember, as a journalist, probably you are in the know, or you have knowledge of the POPIA Act, which declares a recording of anybody without his or her consent illegal.
Yes, I'm coming there. For now, I'm still trying to figure out what the meeting was about.
No. Let me state my issue, because I want to actually indicate to you that we're dealing here with illegal material acquired.
Okay, but Mr. Memani, so I'm doing the interview. I would like you to give me an opportunity, because I'm coming there. That's why I'm saying I don't want to be, because we're going to end up being all over the place. I wanted first to understand, why were you meeting with these opposition MPs when your own party, as you say, had closed doors for you? I'll come to the recording in a moment. Are you saying that in the time you've met with these opposition councillors, not once did you ask them to go and start a campaign against the African National Congress?
Yeah, it is not so. It is not true. I said it, and I don't want to repeat that. I think I told you that I did not say that.
Okay.
And I want to repeat it without equivocation.
So in the 30 minutes audio, we're not going to find you anywhere offering them petrol money or telling them what they must do to take the ANC head on.
Yeah, as I said to you, if you listen to the audio, I've got it myself. It is circulating all over, illegal in its nature as it may be. I said to these guys at the very beginning that they phoned me and they said, "Where are you?" And I said to them, "I'm somewhere," and they came there. And I told them, "Guys, you cannot come here when you are paid on the 25th of every month and ask for money," and so on. They said, no, we don't have petrol in our cars and so on. That was little money that they were talking about. Not anything to the tune of what he said.
Sorry, what do you mean by that? You said they came saying they don't have the money for petrol?
Yes.
To you?
Yes.
Why would they ask you for petrol money as mayor of Madibeng?
That you should ask them.
What did you do about it? What did you say to them when they're asking you for that?
On humanitarian grounds, I had to help them to go back to wherever they came from.
On humanitarian grounds?
Yes.
What responsibility did you feel to these chaps? Do they work for the municipality?
They're councillors.
Yeah, they're people that can.
They
sit in council. Are they working for the administration of the municipality?
No, they're not. They're councillors. Councillors, just like me, I'm a councillor. I'm no longer a councillor because I'm resigning.
Yeah, but you are a councillor, but then who became a mayor, right? That's the process.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say is there are councillors who may not be involved in the administration of the municipality, but they sit in council. Why would you feel a responsibility to help a councillor in opposition benches who sits in council and is not involved in the administration of the municipality? Because I would get it if, as mayor, you felt sorry for the CFO, for the municipal manager, or any of the people who work under you in the government of local government because they still haven't been paid. But what responsibility did you feel to give petrol money to councillors?
I think you've got to understand what I said before. Probably you might be forgetting what I said. I said to you, I was called by these guys who said to me, "Where are you? Can we meet? The municipality is closed." They were trying to get into the municipal building, and they found the municipal building closed. And they said they want to meet with me. And in the engagements with them on that day, I think it was on around the 9th, the 10th. Yeah. So on that day, they then engaged with me on and indicated their own position in terms of traveling. And that's it.
Why was the municipal manager part of that conversation?
No, the municipal manager had to be part of that conversation by virtue of the building being closed to further clarify as to why, where is he, what is happening and so on, because they were more interested in the stability of the municipality. These councillors were just inquiring as to what is happening there. And they raised several issues, which I raised with them as well.
Mm-hmm. So when are you going to be submitting your resignation?
They said within 24 hours. It is 24 hours, I think, starting from 7 in the morning.
Are you going to challenge the charges they're putting up before you?
The charges?
I mean, if they are recalling you, I would imagine in the ANC there will be processes also that follow. Are you going to be challenging this decision of?
No, I'm not going to be charged, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, but they're recalling you for a reason. Will you challenge that reason for which they are recalling you?
No. I am challenging the acquisition of the audio. One, I'm going to court. I'm challenging the author of the report, in which that matter you raised has been stated about 200,000.
Okay.
I'm going to court on those matters against the journalist and the newspaper, and also those who recorded me irregularly. Yes, the process is unfolding as much.
So the nice thing is I've just been sent that audio about 30 minutes or so ago. So I'll listen to it myself and I'll come back and tell the listeners if what you are telling us is true. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Maiman.
Listen to this point. I think you've got to be fair. This is you called me for an interview.
Mm-hmm.
You can't behave like that. You
Like
can't
how?
say to me, you'll play it to
No, I won't play it to the listeners. I'll
That's
play
your
it to
business.
myself.
It's not mine.
I'm just.
That's your business. It's not mine. I'm saying to you, those things you're saying are not true.
That's fine. And I'm saying that's fine. So as a journalist, I'm going to listen to the audio because it came to us 30 minutes ago.
Okay,
I'm going to listen to it, and when I've listened to it, I'll come back and tell the listeners whether what you're telling us is true or not. That's all I'm saying. Okay, let's cut the call. Thanks, though, for making time for us.
Breathe in, insurance. Breathe out, pineapple. In, insurance. Breathe out, pineapple. Again, in, insurance. Out, pineapple. Again and again. Pineapple FSP 48650 is underwritten by Omart Insure Limited, a licensed non-life insurer and authorized FSP.
Yeah, yes. I used to lose time in my business every day. Slow internet, orders not going through, clients waiting. It starts small, but it adds up. You miss one thing, then another, and before you know it, everything is behind. So, I upgrade, and I got fast, reliable connectivity from MTN Business to focus on growth.
Your business doesn't buffer, so why should your tech? Let's talk shop. Click on mtn.co.za/business or visit an MTN store today. MTN Business, Africa's leading enabler of connectivity and converged solutions.
We only needed dog food, that's all we went in for. Just kibble for our Archie, it really was nothing more. But then a squeaky chicken caught my beady eye, and a collar with a shiny bell, shampoo to wave the fleas bye-bye.
That's crazy, crazy, that's the crazy store. Went in for one small thing, came out with so much more.
The crazy store. Hey, you never know what you might find.
This is EWN.
Good morning, I'm Siso Zulu. Citibank District Police Commissioner Abraham Nkwashu has taken the hot seat at the Madlanga Commission to testify today. Nkwashu, currently suspended from his job, has been accused of trying to unduly interfere in the murder investigation of engineer Armand Swart. A crime intelligence officer who testified as witness B previously told the commission that he received a call from Nkwashu demanding that the murder docket be handed over to him. Suspected crime cartel boss Katiso KT Mulife is currently charged with orchestrating the killing of Swart. Swart was killed in a case of mistaken identity where the real target was a corruption whistleblower. A scholar transport driver charged with 14 counts of murder is expected to return to the Vanderbijl Park Magistrates Court this morning for a bail application. The 22-year-old Ayanda Dludla was arrested earlier this year in connection with a crash that claimed the lives of school children. Dashcam footage widely shared online shows a taxi overturning or overtaking multiple cars before crashing into a truck. He also faces 3 counts of attempted murder, 1 count of reckless and negligent driving. Mongezi Koko reports.
At his first court appearance, Dludla was met by a heavy media presence as the country reacted to a crash that claimed the lives of young school children in a matter of moments. During his second appearance, his legal team told the court he was remorseful following the tragic incident. The state requested postponement to allow the National Prosecuting Authority to finalize the appropriate charges given the serious nature of the case. The offences he faces fall under Schedule 5 and 6 of the Criminal Procedure Act, meaning he will have to provide compelling reasons if he is to be granted bail. The vehicle he was driving was also allegedly overloaded, with questions still lingering over its roadworthiness. Mongezi Koko, Eyewitness News.
Transport Minister Barbara Creecy has warned that national airline SAA is still a long way from being a profitable entity. Creecy also says it's unacceptable that the national carrier has received 2 consecutive disclaimers from the Auditor General, the worst possible outcome. The Minister and SAA's top management and board briefed Parliament's Transport Committee yesterday on the airline's annual report for the 2024-25 year as it continues to struggle financially. Babalondenza reports.
SAA came out of business rescue 5 years ago, but is still struggling to get back to its days of profitability and having large control of the local market share. The Auditor General says SAA remains a going concern with material uncertainties after achieving yet another audit disclaimer. SAA made a R150 million profit in the year under review after selling its Heathrow Airport slot, but Transport Minister Barbara Creecy says the entity is still far from being profitable.
And while there was some improvement in passenger numbers and in passenger revenue, I think that we're still a long way from being a profitable entity.
The Auditor General said SAA subsidiary Air Chefs improved from disclaimer to qualified audit outcome, but overall, other SAA entities remain stagnant. Baba Londanza, Eyewitness News.
And Pope Leo will visit a prison today known for its squalid conditions in Equatorial Guinea as he nears the end of his Africa tour. The Pope, who arrived in the oil-rich country but deeply unequal yesterday, has already been in Algeria, Cameroon and Angola. He will meet with inmates at Bata Prison, a facility criticized by rights experts for extreme overcrowding, poor sanitation and mistreatment of prisoners. He will also meet with families and young people at the Bata Stadium and pay tribute to the victims of a deadly accident that rocked the coastal city in 2021 when a fire set off a series of explosions at a munitions depot that killed more than 100 people and wounded around 600 others. Gold is trading at $4,758.40 an ounce. The rand is at 16.49 to the dollar, 22.28 to the pound, 19.36 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $98.39 a barrel.
And in the traffic, we've got delays on the N1 North. That's between the Baklu Interchange and Allendale Road. There's also queuing traffic reported on the M2 West. That's at Heidelberg Road. This is due to an accident. Please be on the lookout there. And then if you're heading towards Amalgam, queuing traffic on the M2 West. That's between the Crown Interchange and Main Reef Road.
A cloudy day in store for Gauteng with scattered showers and thunder showers expected. The temperatures will peak at highs between 20 and 21 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour. Madibeng District Police Commissioner Abraham Kwashu has taken the hot seat at the Madlanga Commission to testify today.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
You're with Clement Manyathela
on 702.
Let's walk the talk. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856,
92.7 and 106 FM.
8 minutes after 10 o'clock. Dumelang, welcome to the second hour of the Clement Manyathela Show. Thank you for staying with us here on 702. So, this mayor that I just spoke to, Douglas Maimane, that's the mayor, the former mayor of Madibeng. The ANC has recalled him. He confirmed in that interview that he's going to send his resignation this morning because he was told this morning that he is being recalled. Now, the audio is long, right? This audio of a meeting that was recorded where the Sunday Times says he was offering 200,000 rand to these opposition councillors so that they can attack the ANC ahead of the local government elections. So I'm going to listen to the full audio, obviously, after the show because, we're busy with the producers on the show that's currently taking place. But during the breaks, I've been listening to bits and pieces of the audio. And you can hear in the audio where he talks about internal contradictions in the ANC and that he's got nothing to lose. He says, I've got nothing to lose. I want this to happen. We must make them have their backs against the wall. That's what he says in the clip, speaking about the African National Congress. So he's speaking to opposition councillors. He's an ANC mayor, and he tells opposition councillors because the ANC in Madibeng were not happy with his performance. In fact, they didn't want him to even access the building. So now he meets with these opposition councillors, and then he gives them petrol money. You heard his explanation. He says he did that on humanitarian grounds. But if you're a mayor of a metro, you have no responsibility to the people in council. That's a separate entity. If this was a CFO who says, I don't have money for petrol because we're getting our salaries late, then as mayor, I can get that, you appealed to your conscience and you wanted to help the CFO or anyone who works in the administration of the metro. In this case, you're bringing in councillors who are in opposition benches. You're telling them, I want the ANC's backs to be against the wall. And he even tells them in the clip, you must speak to journalists as opposition parties, issue out a statement. The community must picket. So he's actually advising opposition MPs on how to attack his own political party. No wonder Fikile Mbalula has now decided that he must stop. He must leave the job. So he's going to send out his resignation this morning. 10 minutes now after 10.
You're with Clement Manyathela.
702.
So right now we start our conversation with the Minister of Communications and Digital Technologies, Soli Maladi. There's so much to speak about. So I'm grateful that you made time for us, Minister Maladi. Good morning.
Morning, Clement, and morning to your listeners. I'm glad we've eventually found the time for this overdue conversation.
Because we've been trying, but hey, busy, man.
No, it was just a matter of being in the same city at the same time for both of us.
True. Yeah. Okay. Also, congratulations on your appointment as what?
Election.
On your election.
Election.
You're right. Not
it's
appointment. Election as the deputy
federal
chairperson.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on that. So I've been trying to figure out where to begin. Should I begin with Dell? Should I begin with Starlink? Should I begin with the post office? And I'm going to begin with something that I know has been of huge interest, not only to me, but to the listeners of the show as well. And that's Starlink. Can you advise where the process is in as far as aligning the regulations are concerned? ICASA's regulations when it comes to equivalent. What is that?
Equity
equivalence investment programs, and triple BEE requirements. Where are we there? Because you had at some point written to ICASA to try and align that.
Yes, and I think let's start there because I think the last time we spoke was immediately after I had written to ICASA issuing a policy directive to say, because the law is very clear in terms of what policy directives a Minister of Communications may issue and how they are entertained on the part of ICASA. It says that the Minister is empowered to issue policy directives that are consistent with national laws. Okay. ICASA must consider those policy directives. So the policy directive I issued was very simple in that it sought to ask ICASA to consider aligning its regulations on ownership and the issuance of telecommunications licenses with the broader empowerment laws of the country, because those, including the ICT sector codes, enable the provision for equity equivalent investment programs to take place. So we submitted that to ICASA. The law is not prescriptive on two things: how long ICASA may take in their consideration of the policy directive, and I can impose a deadline on them. So the process as is now is currently, under consideration at ICASA's level.
Yeah.
And the last, I heard from ICASA was that obviously they are awaiting their internal team, doing a consideration of that policy directive to inform what their next steps are.
Okay, so just to explain to our listeners maybe who may be lost,
Yeah.
In as far as ICASA's regulations are concerned, the triple BEE regulations, any company that comes in, any global company into South Africa wants to operate here, they must somehow give out their ownership, about 30% of that.
Yeah, so
to
they're
local historically
residents.
disadvantaged persons.
So there are two elements, right, around that conversation. Is that there are regulations which were issued as amended in 2021 were prescriptive that with the issuance of a telecommunications license, the requirement is for 30%. Local ownership. And on the other hand, and that's why I speak to the provisions of the Triple BEE Act in terms of what it makes available for, is that there is inconsistencies, because what the regulations do is to close out the door for any other avenue when it comes to this specific subsector of the ICT, which relates only to the issuance of telecommunications licensing, right? And the broader conversation, which I initiated and which has sparked this debate, is when you look in terms of the ICT sector codes, right, which are applicable in this sector. Other sectors like manufacturing and mining also have their sector codes. Those sector codes make it very clear that, and I think that's what, the drafters of also the empowerment laws anticipated, that there would be instances where there are multinationals who, for whatever reason it may be, do not want to sell 30% of their local 30% of their
maybe their
equity
own
to
policies don't
yeah,
allow
or their
that.
own policies, right? And that is why, Clement, even in the same ICT sector, equity equivalent investment programs are applicable. You've got the Microsoft of this world, I think also even IBM, even Dell was operating in South Africa on an equity equivalent thing, but they are not in the space of telecommunications licenses. And that's the distinction that we're saying, that there is different dispensations within the very same sector.
So in telecommunications, they're limiting it to triple BEE without the addition of and the allowance of equity equivalence.
Without the consideration
and yet
of that.
in other industries across the board, triple BEE accounts for equivalence.
Equity equivalence.
Okay, so
and it's a
which makes
legally
sense.
recognized instrument, because part of the debate seems to incorrectly, say that what Maladi's intervention is doing is seeking an exemption and doing that. It's not about Starlink or Company X. It's about saying, okay, cool. There is lack of uniformity along the application of the very same empowerment laws that we have recognized and are also applicable.
But when was this picked up, this lack of uniformity? Because I'll tell you why some South Africans felt like you are basically trying to create a situation here where Elon Musk's company is going to come operate here without giving away or even complying with our laws of giving away 30% of that ownership to local companies, is that it happened during the debate when Elon Musk was busy tweeting about South Africa and how they don't want me to bring Starlink in South Africa because I'm white. They want me to give away 30% of my company. And then, boom, we see your announcement of this proposed amendment of the rules. So it's almost like the timing just thought, why is he only raising this now?
What gives me great comfort around that particular thing is that the focus seems to be on when the policy was published. But in 2024, late 2024, we issued the first communication around the intention to issue the policy directive, right? At that time, Clement, one would not have the foresight, the prediction whatsoever that there will be a visit to Washington. Right, that would then spark, a conversation around the application for Starlink or so. I think as a new minister coming into a portfolio, one of the things that, I was very encouraged to look at was where are opportunities for regulatory reforms that could advance, the quest that this administration has in order to put South Africa in a stronger position to connect the over 25% of the population that's not connected.
Yeah.
So the very first communication around that policy direction was in late, I think if I recall the date correctly, October and November 2024. So, of course, and I think this is what muddies the conversation, is that, of course, whenever, Elon tweets about that, it polarizes, society, it polarizes South Africa. And that distracts the conversation because a lot of it gets, focused on the politics of the individual or not. And I think the responsibility that I have as a Minister of Communications, of course, to be on the side of the law of the country and what the law of the country enables and what it doesn't enable.
Okay, and I know you don't get involved in issuing of licenses, but from what you understand, I mean, Starlink's argument is we don't want 30% to go to the local. Their argument is we want to comply with the equity equivalence investment programs rather than giving away 30% of local ownership. That's what they want, right?
Yeah, that's what they've said.
They've made it very clear publicly.
Yeah.
Is there any other global company that's trying to push for this equity equivalence investment programs who want to invest in this country, who are unhappy with what is provided for within the BBBEE, which is the 30% local ownership?
Yeah, look, it's, like even at conferences, I meet different potential satellite providers who want a pathway to invest in South Africa. And the reality is, they are aware that for multinationals to invest in South Africa, there are two pathways, right? Yeah. There's the 30% local equity sale that you can do, or the equity equivalent investment programs that can be done. And the reality, Clement, is that, Starlink is not the only satellite, provider. Amazon have got a LEO solution in that. The Chinese have got, several in there. And the engagements that we've made also, they've also expressed an appetite to say that if this provision was available, they'd be more than happy to enter South Africa because, there's also considerations that in their own dispensational policies, they have to grapple with. I think for me, the most important thing is that in this conversation, right, if our laws recognize that there are two pathways that are legal instruments to enter to invest in South Africa, why can't they be applicable across the board? And that's the question that, I'm trying to resolve with the policy directive.
Yeah, which honestly, I think that just makes sense because our BBBEE legislation there used to be uniformity around that.
Across the board, yeah.
But I do think that we do need to ask serious questions about why it's happening now. And you've already clarified that you said this a year ago already. You wanted, but we have to ask questions, especially because the man who's involved here is unhinged.
Absolutely.
He peddles disinformation, and it really worries me. I mean, the other day I said, if this man, Elon Musk, can use his own platform, Twitter, for disinformation campaigns, what else can he do with the companies that he owns when he operates in South Africa? Like, does that concern you at all? Because I don't think that we are politicizing it. I think the man has been clear. He's using his own Twitter company to spread disinformation about South Africa. What more when he is involved in the telecommunications infrastructure? What can he use that for?
And I think for me, the most important part is that South Africa's capacity to enforce and uphold our laws is intact, whether it's the cybersecurity laws, whether it's the interventions about fighting misinformation and disinformation. And the other thing, Clement, that also comforts me is the fact that, whenever a license is issued, it is not issued without its own conditions to be upheld at all times, right? And a deviation or any violation of those conditions under which a telecommunications license was issued has penalties linked to it that can be invoked at any time. And that's where the role of, one, the regulator becomes very important, and two, our law enforcement agencies becomes very instrumental. Because I don't think we live in a risk-free world, at all times, whether it is with, satellite solutions or any other solution. But the most important thing is, do we have, one, the law enforcement capacity and the intelligence capacity to respond appropriately should such violations occur.
Do you think we need to strengthen our regulations, though? Because, I mean, with intelligence and law enforcement, I don't even have much confidence knowing what we know as South Africans. What about the regulations? Would you push for regulations that would ensure that those loopholes are closed? Because, I mean, across the world, you see tech giants and billionaire entrepreneurs are no longer just market players. They're geopolitical actors too. And whatever infrastructure they have, investments they have, they will use those to somehow contribute towards this changing geopolitical world. So do you think there's a need for stringent regulations that would ensure that even an Elon Musk, who maybe one day operates here, is never going to use that as a political tool?
Yeah, look, I think more than stringent is we constantly have to be vigilant, right? Because, living in the type of world that we are living in, I think there's always opportunistic and nefarious elements that will try to use their influence in different ways, either through, their commercial vehicles or either through the proximity to power to advance certain interests. So I don't think, right, sitting here, I could say that, at all times, our capacity from enforcement, from regulations are a panacea to even unforeseen risk that may emerge, because technology is evolving all the time, right? And I think what we have a responsibility to is to capacitate ourselves to be able to respond quickly to risks if they emerge, and should they emerge, how we can quickly mitigate those from causing damage. But I think one of the most important things, and again it speaks in terms of the point that I made earlier in terms of, regulators issue licenses through a particular, and it's a rigorous process of compliance with all its set conditions. The ability to do oversight on those to ensure that there isn't any deviation from that. But also the reality that the country has to enforce its own laws, whether be from, a data sovereignty perspective, whether be it from a cybersecurity element, that we constantly do that. And I think part also of enhancing state capacity to protect its own interest, it's to be able to have foresight of what potential risks are coming in the future and to prepare adequately. I take your point to say that when you look just in terms of the spread perhaps of criminal activities in the country, that you express doubt, which I think is shared by many South Africans, about our law enforcement capacity to do that. But I think it requires that from different perspectives and responsibilities, whether it's in communications, justice, state and security, policing, we constantly look at tightening where there are potential loopholes to protect South Africa's interest. And that also includes making sure that we get people connected.
Yeah. So just lastly on the equity equivalence investment program. So obviously, as we've said, these are for foreign firms that can earn empowerment points by investing in training, skills development and local enterprises, rather than selling that 30% or giving that 30% equity to local firms. Now, there's a concern that's been raised about the equity equivalence investment programs, that they are increasingly being reduced to like it's a box, like you're ticking the box ticking exercise, and they're designed to sort of create this illusion that transformation is happening, when in fact there is no evidence that is sufficient that exists that shows that this equity equivalence investment programs actually works. Can you say confidently now that it does work?
So there are some shortcomings, right? There are some shortcomings. I think it's a model that works, but it requires that there is rigorous oversight of it. And this is where my honest view is that government hasn't consistently ensured that it does the monitoring to ensure that they have the impact that they were created for. And the responsibility is ensure that we up the monitoring, one, to make sure that what is applied for is actually what gets executed. And that requires, right, from sector departments like communications and even mining and other areas where it's applicable, working very closely with trade and industry and competition, because often in this conversation, Clement, what gets forgotten is that the final authority for equity equivalent investment program applications lies with the Department of Trade and Industry. From the sector department, we do our own analysis and make recommendations on the value and the potential impact that they may bring in.
Okay. Which then brings me to the issue of Dell, because you recently came under fire for recommending the approval of Dell's equity equivalence investment program, and they had applied to review this program for 2025 until 2034. But the issue then is, was there enough evidence that suggests that they were able to meet what was expected of this program previously before they are now applying for this new license? So the recommendation to you was, do not approve this, but you decided to approve it. Why?
So there's two things. Which are very important, because one, in terms of the role of the sector councils, in this case the ICT Sector Council, which is the responsibility to assess, review applications for equity equivalent investment programs in the ITC sector. They make a recommendation, right? So the recommendation they make does not obligate whoever is the Minister of Communications to agree with that application recommendation. Not, it's a recommendation that one, we have to assess and can get to a different conclusion as we did. So what happened, right? What happened in that particular case was that because of the delays that happened in engagements between Dell and the ICT Sector Council, when they were not getting a response on their application, they did an escalation, which is the right thing to do, right? Because they're worried about the expiry before renewal, right? Made a presentation to the department in terms of the offering of their equity equivalent program for renewal. On assessment, and we met with them, I think it was in December, towards the beginning of December last year, we identified some weaknesses in their package, particularly around the spread of their enterprise development programs, and challenged, and in fact required of them to go back and enhance those in order to have major impact. So we had 4 points that we raised. One was on the geographic spread of their enterprise development programs and training opportunities. The other was around the scale of doing business with, female entrepreneurs. I think the third point was around the allocation of, their quantums for those training. And they responded to that series of questions, right? We had not, the ICT Sector Council said that they had written to me prior to that to say that, not recommend. We had not seen, and we've looked everywhere, we had not seen their correspondence up until we got a letter from the chairperson of the portfolio committee saying that the BBBE ICT Sector Council wrote to her and shared a correspondence that they wrote to me saying that their recommendation was do not approve. But we had moved and done our direct engagement and interrogated the application, which resulted in Dell going back to reinforce it to meet some of the requirements that, in my view and the department's view, would make it a much more meaningful EIP program for our consideration. And on the basis of that, I was satisfied that this application has potential meaningful impact that meets my recommendation to the Minister of Trade and Industry and Competition.
I've got a few follow-up questions on that, but we'll get to them after the latest in Eyewitness News headlines. It's 10:31. So hi.
Thanks, Clement. Good morning. We begin with two breaking stories. Statistics South Africa has released the latest inflation reading showing that the cost of living increased to 3.1% in March. Now, this is a slight uptick from February's 3%. 6 of the 13 categories in the CPI basket recorded higher annual rates, including, among others, housing and utilities, restaurants, accommodation services, transport, as well as education. In the other breaking story out of the capital this morning, suspended police officer Fani Nkosi has been denied bail by the Pretoria North Magistrates Court. The judge ruled that Nkosi failed to prove that his release is in the interest of justice. Nkosi brought the application after his arrest earlier this month during a police raid at his home. And the Madibeng District Police Commissioner Abraham Kwashu is on the hot seat at the Madlanga Commission today. Kwashu, currently suspended from his job, has been accused of trying to unduly interfere in the murder of investigations into the killing of engineer Armand Swart. A crime intelligence officer who testified as witness B previously told told the commission that he received a call from Kwashu demanding that the murder docket be handed over to him. And those are the headlines. This EWN and more at 11 or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
While traveling in Edenville, we've got an accident reported along the R24 West as you head towards the Giluli's interchange. It's causing about a 20-minute hold-up coming out of Edenville Road. There's also queuing traffic along the N12 West. This is between Edenville Road and the Giluli's interchange. If you're traveling towards Germiston via the M2 West, do expect delays approaching Heidelberg Road due to another accident scene. About a 15-minute hold-up there in Auckland Park. We've got an accident as well on Empire Road. It's right near Berihart Avenue, is causing delays. Please try to avoid this one. You can still use Empire Road through Jan Smuts Avenue if you want to not be held up at that point. If you're heading towards Midrand, queuing traffic on the N1 North, that's between the Baku interchange and Allendale Road. More updates at the top of the hour. Do stay tuned.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app. Aubrey Masango.
Weekday evenings,
8 to midnight.
Elon Musk, this sudden need to develop the rural areas, the poor people of South Africa, by the entrance of Starlink to South Africa. But you got to ask yourself that if this country is such a genocidal, racist, evil country, why would you want to do business with those people? If the entrance of Starlink is going to improve the lives of the poor people in the rural areas, why isn't it not doing the same thing in Zimbabwe or Lesotho? We're not seeing too much development happening there.
Aubrey Masango.
8 to midnight on 702.
702.
Joburg is more than a city. It's an unmistakable rhythm that brings us all together. In celebration of this, 702 has partnered with Jozi My Jozi to unite the whole of Joburg in the 702 Jozi My Jozi Walk the Talk Babiza Bonke. So on Sunday, the 26th of July, we're going on a walk through the iconic Joburg CBD, and we want you to join us and be part of something special. Entries will be opening soon, but in the meantime, stay tuned to 702 and get ready for the 702 Jozi My Jozi Walk the Talk, hosted by the City of Johannesburg. Walk with the people, for our Jozi. Babiza Bonke. More on primemediaplus.com.
The pain of losing a loved one is never easy. It will leave you feeling overwhelmed. At Clientele, we understand that burying loved ones with dignity truly matters. Our funeral plans pay out cash within just 24 hours, and you receive 200 Rand airtime when you claim to make those important calls. Plus, we cover up to 13 people on one plan. SMS funeral to 31586. That's 31586. Clientele Life is an authorized FSP and licensed life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Some moments are personal. Some spaces are professional. All of them deserve care. At Frond and Filigree, we create handcrafted floral experiences for life's meaningful moments and the places where they happen. From birthdays and anniversaries to hotels, offices, and events, our bespoke arrangements are designed with artistry and intention. Because when flowers are done right, they elevate every moment. Visit frondandfiligree.co.za.
Running a small business is not just about having a great idea. It's about having the right tools to grow it. That's exactly where MTN Business comes in. Beyond the 702 MTN Small Business Awards, they're doing a lot more to help SMEs succeed. Today on Afternoon Drive with John Perlman, we'll be in conversation with MTN Business, unpacking how their integrated digital services and cloud solutions help SMEs simplify operations and drive real progress. Tune in and find out how they can help take your business further too. MTN Business, let's talk shop on 702.
702.
The Clement Manyathela Show.
Let's walk the talk.
23 minutes before 11 o'clock, we're in conversation this hour with the Minister of Communications and Digital Technologies, Solly Malatsi. If you've got questions, you've got inputs, you want to join this conversation, feel free to give us a call on 011-883-0702. So far, we have spoken about Starlink because that has been really the issue of contention every time we talk about Elon Musk. We have started talking about Dell as well. I've got a few follow-up questions, and then I'm going to come to your WhatsApps and your calls. You can send your WhatsApps as well on 072-702-1702. So, Minister, just to recap, because I had follow-up questions on the issue of Dell. So, the BBBE ICT sector explicitly recommended to you that this deal be rejected because they stated their own reasons, and I think Part of their reasons was that it was Dell's refusal to provide essential financial information to the council, which has hindered the council's ability to effectively review the application as it related to the contribution threshold. The council also raised concerns that Dell submitted 2 versions of the application with significantly reduced targets, including cutting the number of graduates to be trained from 150 to 50 and reducing participating enterprises from 15 to 10, while the value threshold appeared unchanged. What I want to clarify is, when you say Dell started engaging with you directly as the Department of Communications, had you not seen this recommendation from the ICT Sector Council recommending that you reject this deal?
That's the point that I'm making, right? And that's why I referenced that letter that we received from the portfolio committee chairperson, because in public, Dell has been saying that they wrote to me ahead of me making the announcement that I had reached a decision to make that recommendation to do it. But be that as it may, there are 2 principled issues in here, Clement, is that process-wise, because I am picking up there is an attempt to say that you, Minister Maladi, reaching a conclusion that does not align with the recommendation that the ICT's council made is therefore something wrong. There's nothing wrong with that, because the law stipulates that the responsibilities, they make a recommendation. There may be an ideal instance wherein you agree with a recommendation and you don't agree with the recommendation, right? But again, besides the point, the second point which I want to address is particularly around their concerns around what they deem a reduction of the scope of enterprise development and the number of graduates. Before we went to the break, I'd said to you that when we looked at the initial application, right, we identified that there were shortcomings in there, right? And we're very prescriptive that, your enterprise development reach, in order to have meaningful impact, would have to be spread widely. And one of the things that we insisted on was that it should have reach in other provinces, because it was focused largely on Gauteng and the Western Cape. And we insisted on a reach that's reflective of the diversity of the country in terms of the 9 provinces. And they committed to that in the subsequent revised application.
That they brought up. But I still want the clarity. Before you met them, did you see this rejection, this recommendation?
No.
You did not see. So then the question then becomes, on what basis are you as a department engaging with Dell directly when there is this BBBE ICT Sector Council whose responsibility is to engage with these companies to make sure, because you don't have the capacity as the department to actually go and review applications like that. That's why you've got this agency, the BBBE ICT Sector Council, so that it takes care of that work. So on what basis then as a department do you engage directly with this global company?
Clement, we have a role to play in that process, because the chain, right, of steps is that start with the BBBE ICT Council, and as I said to you, the intervention came because there had been a time overlap between the time that Dell initiated engagement with the council and on Dell's part, the worry that now we are approaching expiry of our current EIP program. Excuse me. And they had not had a response from the ICT council, which is not what is being said by the council.
But why didn't you call the ICT council and say, guys, Dell is coming to me?
I'm coming to the point. I'm coming to the point. In the meeting, right, that we had with Dell, requiring them to enhance their package, we had the deputy chairperson of the BBBE ICT Council in that meeting. So it wasn't a clandestine effort or some interference adventure that, the narrative seeks to want to paint. Secondly, any party in the space, if they feel that, justifiably so, right, they are not getting what is not the response rate, but they are not being engaged with. They have a right for escalation to the department, right? And that is why in that engagement, we pulled in the officials in the department who oversee the work of the BBBE ICT Council, so that this thing does not get reduced to Maladi's sole intervention, to intervene in the work of
But should you be part of that process? Like, so why are you not? So you said the deputy was there, this man who is part of the BBBE ICT Sector Council.
It's a lady.
Why didn't it's a lady?
Yes.
So why didn't you give them that responsibility? Why are you as the department now part of this review? Because then what's the point of this agency when, as someone who provides political oversight, or as the department, then you are heavily involved in it?
It's not heavily involved. And I challenge that. And let me
You know why I
point.
think it's heavily involved? Because you have taken decisions based on the review that you were engaged in directly with Dell, and not based on the recommendation of the ICT Sector Council.
Clement, and I think it's important that we acknowledge the point, right? The point that recommendations are for a consideration, right? And secondly, that there is room, right, in that interaction for escalation to the minister, right? And the third point, which I'm very comfortable with how we handled with the process, is that we pulled in, because we have to give an audience to any party. If your Prime Media, for instance, has a concern about the media space and they feel that they need to express their view to, the department, we will give an audience, right, in order to understand what is bothering them, right? And from that, we're able to say, okay, cool, right? As an administration that is committed to also ensuring that our regulatory environment can, encourage investment that help us to achieve our goals, part of doing our job is looking where we have come short. And there was a realization that the ICT Council, had it done its job the way it should have done in terms of the turnaround time for responses, the proactive communication all the time, and dealt with the concerns that were done, there would be no need for the escalation. And that's why we're even open to play an open book to say, in our first engagements with Dell, we've had, the Director General of the department, the officials who oversee the work of the BBBE ICT Council, and the Deputy Chairperson, was to make sure that there cannot be any claim whatsoever of some sort of bias that's being alleged. Because part of doing our job is that even if they had done a recommendation, I would have made a determination based on the fact whether we need to engage directly with Dell or not. There's nothing illegal about that.
Just lastly on that, by the time you made your decision then to approve this, had you seen that rejection from the ICT Council?
No. You're asking me this for the third time.
Okay.
And I think you're trying to...
losing it. You know why I'm trying? Where I'm missing it is, if there's a body whose job is to recommend to you, at some point, they have got to be involved in the process. So, for instance, if you decided, okay, I'm going to approve this, how are you not then engaging the body as a whole? So what I'm missing is, if really you took this decision and you had not seen this recommendation from the ICT Sector Council, what stops Starlink or Microsoft or any other company from coming to you directly without even engaging with the ICT sector, because they know that, well, we just escalate to the minister, he can take the decision without even considering what the ICT sector says? Because in this case, it wasn't considered. You had not seen their recommendation.
Clement, each case should be dealt on its unique circumstances, and let's avoid making simplistic generalizations on unrelated matters. I think what's important in here is that the circumstances leading to the escalation are very, very important to consider, right? It wasn't bypassing, undermining the role of the ICT, council whatsoever, but we have a responsibility, right, where there is, a clear sense that the process has not been responsive enough, because these things, assessing applications is not an infinite process, right? It has to have a time lapse, and there has to be stages that can be elevated to, the minister, for the minister to make a thing. And the responsible to do in that instance is to engage. I mean, I heard you earlier saying, the department doesn't have the capacity to do assessment of applications. It does, because there are officials in the department who are responsible
the point then of the ICT
because the body,
sector?
No, the body is established to do the work and make recommendations. If there was in the legislative, ecosystem, an anticipation that you won't have capacity to do this. Why is there a need to make a recommendation? Because a recommendation, you can assess it based on, the motivations and come to a different conclusion. And what I'm trying to showcase you in this case was that we didn't act outside of what the law permits. We didn't, act in a way that is illegal. We didn't act in a way that means that we're not doing our job. It is part of our job to try and understand what are the issues that are being raised about this matter, and to satisfy ourselves too that these have been dealt with correctly.
All right. I'm running out of time, and I still want to talk to you about the post office, about the SABC as well. So let's get a quick ad break. It's 12 minutes before 11 o'clock. When we come back, I see your messages coming through, some of your questions for the minister. Kenneth in Freedom Park, I'll also start with your call.
The Midday Report.
Weekdays,
12 to 1.
What is your sense of where the DA is going into the local government elections?
Our focus has to be on those critical Gauteng metros. That is where 18 million South Africans live. It is just the biggest opportunity to demonstrate the DA difference. But obviously there are others as well. We have to win again in Cape Town and in many other Western Cape municipalities. We have great candidates in Nelson Mandela Bay and in eThekwini, and try to maximize our results in all of them.
Jordan Hill-Lewis.
The Midday Report.
With Mandy Wiener.
12 to 1 on 702.
702.
Moving to a bigger office space can be expensive. Thanks to My Way Business Insurance, I get to save up to 20% on my insurance premiums every month. Plus, I get My Business Assist, which helps me with marketing, legal, and admin services. Saving money while growing my business is a great win for me.
Switch to My Way Business Insurance and save up to 20% on your monthly premiums. Real businesses, real savings. Call us on 0860 646464 today for a quote. My Way is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. Standard rates and T's and C's apply.
Attention all shoppers.
Our supermarket shelves are full of unhealthy food. It's often hard for me to know which foods are good for my family. The information on packaged food is complicated and hard to understand. I wish we had easy to understand warning labels on foods high in salt, sugar, and saturated fat. We have the right to know what's in our food. Support front of package warning labels on unhealthy packaged foods. Sign the petition on healer.org. That's HEALA.org.
Brush, stroke, paint, color, protect, and admire. From roof paint to exterior textures and interior silk, Warrior Paints has it all. The product range and stylish colors are amazing. And what's more, Warrior Paints has crush prices for incredible savings. Enjoy that good old-fashioned personal service you deserve. For price, quality, variety, and service, Warrior Paints is streets ahead. Warrior Paints. Affordable, lasting luxury.
Your voice.
Your questions.
Your morning radio with Clement Manyathela.
This is 7.
9 minutes before 11 o'clock. Let's go straight to your calls and your WhatsApps. What questions do you have for the Minister of Communications and Minister of Communications and Digital Technologies, Solly Maladi? Let's start with your WhatsApps.
Clement, good morning. Good morning to the Minister. Here's a quick question. There are telecommunication companies that have registered and they're not operating. So the question to the Minister is, can a Starlinker use one of those companies just to get themselves into South Africa, or one of those companies has to match with Starlink to get into South Africa? Because we have companies that are using one of the service providers like Telkom, Vodacom, and whatsoever, just to, as a service provider, but we know they're not actually offering a direct service. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for that. And of course, earlier on, I was getting questions as well from some listeners who are saying Starlink seems to be already in South Africa and some people are using it. And I don't know if you've got any information about that, Minister, just to add on to that question.
I mean, they're not allowed to operate in South Africa. So if it's being used, it would be irregular. I recall that when we went to the portfolio committee, the honorable member from the MK actually made that allegation, and ICASA in that meeting undertook to investigate to establish if indeed that was the case. But they shouldn't be operating in South Africa because currently, they don't have a license to operate in South Africa. So if that is happening, and it's a big if, it means that it's not happening legally.
There hasn't been any reports that have come
No,
to your desk that indicate that.
since the ICASA investigation, and I can come to you after the show to establish what the outcome of that investigation that they took to undertake revealed to them.
All right. Kenneth, you are in Freedom Park. You want to ask about digital migration. Go ahead.
Yes, I just want to ask, good morning to you, Clement, and the Minister. I just want to ask, what happened to the switching off of analog to digital and also the SABC bill? What happened to that bill?
Okay. Thank you, Kenneth.
Let's start with the SABC bill. You'll recall around that whole furore about the SABC bill was that part of my motivation for its withdrawal was that it lacked a funding model that would answer one of the key fundamental questions about the sustainability of the SABC going forward. We then appointed a service provider called BIMT, who are experts in the broadcasting field, to develop a funding model or options for potential funding models for the SABC so that we can incorporate that in the revised SABC bill, which is now an annual performance plan target for the 2026-2027 financial year. BMIT have concluded their work. In fact, last week, Friday, we met with them together with the SABC board as part of their final consultations to present those different models for us. What now needs to happen is I need to do the political consultation with the Minister of Finance because those options that have been articulated in there have a direct impact in terms of how government would potentially fund the SABC. And I need to make sure that, one, there is alignment with National Treasury in terms of their approach. That's the part on the SABC bill. With regards to analog switch off, recall that government, the department, we lost the case last year around June with regards to the intention to proceed with analog switch off. And what the judgment found was that there were shortcomings in how we approached the area of consultations leading up to the decision around the announcement of that date. And what we have been working on since then is to do several things. Chief amongst those is to increase our capacity to install, decoders for indigent households, which government had committed to providing with these decoders in order to enable for digital migration, right? As a result of that, we are currently in discussions with the stakeholders in order to revive the steering committee. We just need to finalize and agree on the terms of reference of our engagement so that we can fix the consultation part that will identify, eventually three things. One, the process to how we do the consultations to arrive at a decision to stop with the registrations, for instance, that are continuing for indigent people, because that cannot be infinite. And secondly, a determination of a new date for analog switch off. But we have to fix certain stylistic approaches in terms of the engagements, because that's what the court previously found government to have been weak on.
Does the SABC have money for elections?
Does the SABC have what?
Money for the elections? Is there a conversation with Treasury?
Yeah, so I mean, when the budget was being worked on, one of the submissions from the SABC was that because it's an election year, and as has been the case every election year, there's been a special allocation for elections, right? In this current budget, no provision was made specifically for that line item. But I want to underscore this point, Clement. It will be self-defeating, right, for this administration in particular, to get to a conclusion where it does not adequately support the SABC, not only for the purposes of the elections, but for the noble and constitutional goal of universal access to broadcasting. So in terms of, when will that engage, when will a decision around what gets provided for the elections, it's an ongoing conversation that we're having with Treasury and even with the SABC.
Just lastly, I'm left with 20 seconds. The post office, is it headed for liquidation? Because the last time I saw business rescue practitioners said that is the way to go unless there is a guarantee of sorts from government, a bailout of sorts, which under the current circumstances, I don't see it happening.
Yeah. No, at this stage, liquidation is not an immediate risk. What had happened was that when we made, applications for special appropriations, one of the things that we had approached Treasury on was the historic SABC debt to Centec for signal distribution, right? An application for an amount of 700 million. In the budget speech, the Minister of Finance announced, and everything in the lead up to that indicated that that's what we're going to get. And then the minister then said, look, you've got other pressures in your department, including, post office and all of that. Use the 700 million to deal with the other immediate pressures, right? And then we identified that we can deal with the post office issue to do two things. One, we need to get the post office out of business rescue. In order to do that, and as per the rules governing business rescue, in order to exit business rescue, there has to be a projection that in the 6 months post the business rescue, the entity would be financially stable. And part of the intervention we are doing is that to secure that financial sustainability to exit the business rescue will be an allocation of 350 million towards the post office. We can appoint a board, and then it can start to be run internally by the management team there with the oversight of the board. We are in the process of finalizing the appointment of a board because you're going to need that oversight structure to be able to, oversee the work of the management and the entity.
All right. Solly Maladi, Minister of Communications and Digital Technologies. Thank you so much for engaging with us.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
It's a minute before 11.
Ask yourself, what matters most?
I just want to be there when she takes her first steps.
And still be around for her first dance.
It's knowing I'm not just covered, I'm cared for.
It's having the strength to say I'm back.
It's just knowing Mom will be okay.
It's coming home.
Bonitas goes beyond benefits and claims. Bonitas, medical aid for South Africa. Voted #1 medical aid in the Ask Africa Orange Index Awards for the second year running. Visit bonitas.co.za and find your plan.
Payroll, VAT, stock arriving before money does, public holidays, late payments, that one expense you didn't plan for. Sound familiar? It's not you. It's just business. Bridgement gives you a cash flow safety net for when timing gets in the way. Find out more at bridgement.com.
Bridgement. Business funding simplified.
To walk the talk is to turn words into meaningful actions. And it's what we at 702 are committed to doing every day. We are also committed to following the rules set out by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission's Code of Conduct. To give you balanced programming, fair comments, and accurate news. But if we stumble along the way and you feel we are not living up to the code, let us know on comment@702.co.za. And if after that you're still not happy, you can direct your complaint in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission. Email bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more, visit bccsa.co.za. This is EWN.
Good morning, I'm Sfiso Zulu. Statistics South Africa has released the latest inflation reading showing that the cost of living has increased to 3.1% in March. This is a slight uptick from February's 3%. 6 of the 13 categories in the CPI basket recorded higher annual rates, including housing and utilities, restaurants, accommodation services and education. Chief Director of Price Statistics at SSA, Patrick Kelly.
Let's start with the education component, which is surveyed once a year in March. Tuition fees increased by 5.4% in 2026, higher than the 4.5% rise recorded in 2025. Primary and secondary education rose by 6.2% compared to 5% last year, while tertiary education increased by 4.2%, up from 3.7% in 2025. Private secondary schools recorded the sharpest rise of all the education categories, climbing by 7.5%.
The other breaking story this morning, suspended police officer Fanny Nkosi has been denied bail by the Pretoria North Magistrates Court. It ruled that he failed to prove that his release is in the interest of justice. Nkosi was arrested earlier this month during a raid at his home. He faces firearm-related charges after 7 guns were found at the property, and he's been charged for the possession of dockets which were allegedly discovered in his Wendy house. Khomoza Modise reports.
Suspended Sergeant Fanny Nkosi maintained a stoic face as Magistrate Thandi Teledi went through each of the allegations against him, detailing why he's failed to prove that he's an ideal candidate for bail. One of the points that Nkosi has been slammed for by the court is denying that a stun grenade was among the items found in his home during a police raid. Magistrate Teledi says this shows that he's not credible. The court has also pointed out that Nkosi has not responded to the allegations made against him, but he's chosen to give bare denials. He'll remain behind bars as police investigations continue. The matter has been postponed to next month. Khomoza Modise, Eyewitness News at the Pretoria North Magistrates Court.
Suspended SAPS District Commissioner for Madibeng, Abraham Kwashu, says he was instructed by his superior to request dockets for the murder of Vereniging engineer Armand Swart. Kwashu is currently appearing before the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry, where he is expected to respond to allegations that he improperly interfered in Swart's murder case. It's suspected Swart was killed in a case of mistaken identity after his company blew the whistle on a massive price inflation scheme at Transnet. Tabiso Goba reports.
On the morning of the 17th of April 2024, while waiting for the gate to be opened at his workplace, a car pulled up beside Armand Swart's vehicle and shot him 23 times. Controversial businessman and suspected crime cartel boss Katiso KT Molefe was later arrested on the suspicion he orchestrated the killing. The gun used to kill Swart has been linked to several other high-profile killings across the country. Witness B, an anonymous crime intelligence officer who was investigating Swart's murder, previously told the Madlanga Commission that Madibeng District Commissioner Abraham Kwashu called him demanding that he hands over the dockets. In his opening statement, Kwashu says there was no improper conduct on his part.
I will address the allegation that I demanded the Armand Swart docket and show that my actions were pursuant to lawful instruction from the Provincial Commissioner.
During his testimony, Nkwashu is also expected to address the familiar links between him and Katiso KT Molefe. Tabiso Goba, Eyewitness News.
And tourism in the Western Cape is booming with strong growth in both international and domestic travel. Newly released data from South African tourism shows that 1.5 million international visitors spent nearly 26 billion rand in the province last year. International arrivals increased by 11%, with the UK and Germany remaining the province's largest source markets. Domestic tourism also recorded solid recovery and expansion, with at least 4 million overnight trips last year. Economic Development and Tourism MEC Ivan Meyer says the figures reflect a sector that is growing with purpose.
The growth matters because tourism creates jobs, supports small businesses, and strengthens local communities. Importantly, our success is built on responsible leadership.
Gold is trading at $4,758.40 an ounce. The rand is at 16.49 to the dollar, 22.28 to the pound, 19.36 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $98.39 a barrel.
And in the traffic in the CBD, we've got a major accident scene. This one is along the M2 East. It happened near Heidelberg Road. It's causing delays coming out of Elof Street while traveling. On the M1 South, some delays approaching Carr Street. That's due to roadworks along this route. There's also roadworks taking place along the N3 North in the Alexandra area coming out of Vincent Chabalala Road.
A cloudy day in store for Gauteng with scattered showers and thunder showers expected. The temperatures will peak at highs between 20 and 21 degrees. Two breaking stories in EWN this hour. Statistics South Africa has released the latest inflation reading showing that the cost of living increased by 3.1% in March. And in Pretoria, suspended police officer Fanny Nkosi has been denied bail by the Pretoria North Magistrates Court.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
You're with Clement Manyathela
on 702.
Let's walk the talk. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856.
92.7 and 106 FM.
Minutes after 11 o'clock, Dumelang, welcome to the third and final hour of the Clement Manyathela Show. It's time now for our Listener's Choice feature.
Burning questions.
Insightful answers.
Listener's Choice.
With Clement Manyathela.
So on our Listener's Choice feature this morning, we are talking about police rankings. Do you understand how police rankings work? Because this is something that we encounter every day, right? But do we fully understand police ranks? So from constables on the ground to senior leadership, how is the South African Police Service structured, and what do these ranks even mean in practice? Because we often hear titles like captain or colonel or general, especially, when we're reporting about them in the news. So what authority do these ranks carry, and how do they influence decision making or investigations and accountability within policing? Because given how big an issue of crime is in this country, I think understanding how the police hierarchy works could probably help us better engage with law enforcement and know who's responsible for what. So what do you understand about police ranks? What question do you have about police rankings? Have you ever been unsure who you're dealing with when interacting with the police? Please, you can join this conversation on 011-883-0702. WhatsApp's on 072-702-1702. Jeremy Very is the former Western Cape head of detectives who's going to help us understand this better. Thank you so much for making time for us, Jeremy. Good morning.
Hi, good morning to you.
Let's start by just breaking down the different police ranks in the South African Police Service and how those are structured.
Okay. I think the first thing we should outbreak before the breakdown is to emphasize that despite the fact that words like general, major general, brigadier will be used as if mirroring a paramilitary kind of use of the ranking system, in reality it is meaningless because it doesn't translate literally in terms of span or ambit of control or command. That equivalates with the military, hence those things. So that's the first point to understand. But if one is looking at face value here, the National Commissioner is the highest ranking officer and he's a general, okay? Under him, he has lieutenant generals, and they include all those national, deputy national commissioners, provincial commissioners, etc., the people who sit in Pretoria. Okay, with the exception, of course, the provincial commissioners who are also lieutenant generals. Then under that, if you have major generals. Now, major generals are supposed to have like operational control or control over a certain department or division, or in the current structure, clusters, if one can say, that reflects the ambit that should go with that rank. Okay? The next level below that is a brigadier, which if one equates it to the military in the SANDF, they would more refer to a brigadier general. Okay? And now that would then we take a next level. Let's talk about, because the structure is a bit complicated to simplify it. But usually the next level rank below that are colonels, full colonels. Okay? Now they usually are the people you will find as a station commander, where there's a relatively large station that has a wider ambit of control and ambit of responsibility, and also of amount of officers designated there. Under them would be lieutenant colonels, and under them would be captains, and that ends what we call the commissioned ranks. In other words, commissioned ranks are ranks where you are commissioned into that rank only by signature of the president. Now, below them are the basic operational level ranks, which we call non-commissioned officers, which technically are supposed to be the operational staff, warrant officer first, below that sergeant, and then constable, and of course a student trainee when they just come in. Now, like I said, theoretically this is supposed to mirror a military, but in reality it doesn't happen like that. We, for example, have current deputy national commissioners who were clerks before, and when they leave in the public service under the Public Service Commission employment, PSA, or Public Service Administration, when they reach the highest level in there, let's say they were secretaries or they were PAs or they were things, they often convert over to ranks. And some of them, I know of one crime intelligence head for a short while, a few years ago, who actually started out as a clerk and later became a major general responsible for crime intelligence. I mean, this is about 20 odd years ago. So these things do not equivalent exactly as it would be in the military in terms of span.
Okay.
And many of the people who later become generals, even if they went over as a colonel or a captain, some of them has no experience, that would equivalent in terms of span of control, amount of personnel they commanded, that speaks to the rank they are at, in the strict military sense of the word.
Okay.
That is why we have so many generals running small Anyana departments, and just being there, not for the sake of a rational structure that speaks to the way ranks are supposed to be worked, but surely because of the rank system speaking to remuneration.
Okay, got you. So I just want us to take it bit by bit now, Jeremy, because you've said so much that is so insightful. So just to clarify, so when we talk about a general in the official sense, can that only be the National Police Commissioner?
Yes, but what happens is you must now distinguish, when operational people internally, when they would often they would not say Major General. They would just shorten off and call you General, even if you are Major General.
Yes.
Or if you're Lieutenant General, they will refer to General. But the official designation is the only General is the full Star General, full 5-star, and that is the National Commissioner.
Yeah.
Let's take an equivalent in the Army. In the Army, you would have a brigadier general, but they won't call him a brigadier. Do you understand? That would be more, they would just say general.
General, yeah. And the reason I was asking that is because that's what we often do, even when we refer to, like, for instance, the KZN Police Commissioner, General Mkwanazi, or the head of intelligence, Dumisani Khumalo, General Dumisani Khumalo. So what I wanted to understand then, after the general official title, is, so the Lieutenant General, you said that's more the Deputy National Police Commissioner.
National Commissioners,
head of,
the Provincial Commissioners.
So the head of Crime Intelligence as well would be.
Sometimes a Divisional Commissioner deciding, depending on the size or the ambit of command.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I see. Yeah. So the General, Lieutenant General, Major General, Brigadier Colonel, Lieutenant Colonel, are those now at... So that's like the top leadership structure, hey? Before you then come
No. Just hang on. Okay. Because even there's an artificial distinction that is purely theoretical.
Okay.
At the apex, Okay, the National Commissioner, one would refer to them and the Deputy National Commissioners and the Provincial Commissioners, one would refer to them as top management. Okay? And then if one goes here at the level of Major Generals and those kind of things, and Brigadiers, one would refer to them as, I would say, senior management. Okay? And then if one goes below colonels, down to colonels, lieutenant colonels, captains, I would say they would be more appropriate with the term
middle management?
Middle management, yes. Okay. And then down there, of course, everything below that is things. It's all determined by the management that of the response. The ambit of control or responsibility that covers your management.
Gotcha. All right. 18 minutes after 11 o'clock. Let me go to your calls and your WhatsApps now. What questions do you have around police rankings? Jeremy Very is the former Western Cape head of detectives, helping us understand how the rankings work. Sure, it's such a long one. Hey, you've got the general, you've got the lieutenant generals, you've got major general, brigadier, colonel, lieutenant colonel, captains, warrant officers, sergeant, constable. That's a long list of different ranks in the SAPS. What question do you have around these rankings? Give us a call on 011-883-0702. WhatsApp's on 072-702-1702. Semi, you're calling us from Centurion. Good morning.
Good morning, Clement. I'd like to ask a guest. If you look at someone like Brigadier, if you look at someone like Athlenda Mati, she's never been a career cop. None whatsoever. She doesn't have any service experience, but she's called a brigadier. She wears police uniform, of which we know for civilians are not supposed to wear police uniforms. And she's got all those decorations. How did it happen that someone who's got a background in communications wears police uniforms with decorations and she's called a brigadier? Wherever she's never earned the title.
Gotcha.
She never went through the ranks.
Yeah. Sammy, thank you so much for that. Yeah, Jeremy, how do you explain that? Because it doesn't even start with the spokesperson. There are many people who have left the private sector, never been in the police. They come in and suddenly they've got these higher rankings.
There is one explanation first. One is lateral entry appointments. Like, for example, I mentioned an example. It even happened in the apartheid era. General Price, that later became General Price, he came from a university and came up at a very senior top-level management, parachuted straight into national management of the police. That's a lateral entry process. In other words, he didn't have experience in policing before he came to the policing at a very high ranking level at national level. So the example that your question cites as his root in such practices. The second question that explains this, not now, but to explain the question historically, is we had 11 police forces in this country called South Africa. And with the amalgamation of all those forces, you came with all those ranks, some inflated terribly, and even in the last minute before the transition, before the election, some people jumped 3 ranks and became generals and then came back into the new police service under the Act. That is one other explanation where you had a glut of generals who were not in reality generals. Okay, they were just as a result of another process. The other internal process that caused this glut of generals who are not really generals, or ranks who are not really, is before the transition. Okay, what happened is that, like with the homelands who were amalgamated, the main South African service police force body also had this jumping of ranks to suddenly accelerate people onto a higher level. 2-3 ranks at a time. So, yes, One is the lateral entry, and second is the product of a transition period.
Okay.
But in terms of now, the lateral entry is particularly relevant in this case. You see, the police, if we have scarce skills, like say now, we don't have programmers or we don't have people in the finance department that can assist us, then we can laterally recruit such skills. And because they needed to pay, and this is where the problem lies, because they need to be paid equivalent of a salary, that salary is proportionate to their skills. That salary, they look in the police for an appropriate notch to look at it. Now, in a rank, there are often 3 notches or something. Then they realize, wait a minute, the only place where this person can fit in
is this rank.
Because our structure speaks to ranks is a general or a brigadier, and in the upper level of the notch.
Okay.
In order to accommodate that skill.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay, got it. That makes a lot of sense. It's 23 now after 11 o'clock. I've got some more questions coming from our listeners. We'll get to them after this.
702 Afternoons with Relebogile Mabodja.
702 Afternoons is about all things in life, from music to inspiration. We get an opportunity to explore science, mental health, food. I almost feel like there's nothing we don't do on my show. One of the things I absolutely love about 702 Land and the 702 family is that we are so sharing. We share tears, laughs, smiles. We share in the amazing times and celebrate together as well. We have a range of topics, but when it comes to what we do cover on the show, absolutely everything. My listener is somebody who wants to grow, evolve, develop. They're empathetic, they are loving, they are so special that even when they don't have, they come through and share, and more importantly, they know how to walk the talk.
702 Afternoons with Relebogile Mabodja. Weekdays from 1 to 3 p.m.
Let's hear from Al, owner of Johnson's Cable, why it pays to switch to OUTsurance Business Insurance.
I thought it was going to be difficult to switch to OUTsurance Business Insurance. Switching was so quick and easy. I'm happy with the premium that I'm paying now.
For electrical, tradesman services, and all other businesses, get a quote today and see why it pays to switch to OUTsurance Business Insurance. Visit outsurance.co.za or call 08600 60,000 today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
At Chamberlain's, there's something for everyone. From building supplies for the home renovators to garden essentials for the homemakers. From power tools for the DIY doers to painting supplies for the patio Picassos. We even have coffee for the slightly sleepy and snacks for the young ones. And for the ones who can never quite find what they're looking for, we have you covered too. With our promise to find and source whatever you need. Chamberlain's, famous for hardware since 1903.
Welcome to Nando's Taste-Demonials. Real reviews by real people. Today's testimonial comes from Jeff in Kempton Park. Now, Jeff seems to be a man of very few words. We've asked him to use his few words to tell us what he thinks of our flame-grilled peri-peri full chicken with any 2 sharing sides for $2.83. Jeff?
Nice.
Well, there you have it. When the meal is such a mouthful, you really only need a few words, I guess. Nando's. Oh, what a place.
If you're serious about the business of music, Music Business Masterclass at Academy of Sound Engineering is your next step. We're going to delve deeply into 3 modules: business models, copyright, and contracts. That's 12 weeks, 2 evenings a week, which could truly change the trajectory of your music business career. If you would like more information, please visit us on asc.co.za and get your application started today.
What does real financial success look like when it's shared? We'll catch 702 Drive with John Perlman in conversation with PPS this Thursday, discussing their record 2025 profit share. The Professional Provident Society has allocated an impressive 6.88 billion rand in profit share to its members, a significant step up from the year before. Find out how PPS continues to put graduate professionals at the center of everything they do. For that 702 Drive with John Perlman in conversation with PPS this Thursday only on 702. PPS is a licensed life insurer, controlling company, and authorized FSP.
Burning questions.
Insightful answers.
Listener's choice.
With Clement Manyathela.
27 after 11 o'clock. Let's take more of your questions as we discuss on our Listener's Choice feature this morning. Police rankings. Larry, you are in Lenasia. Good morning.
Good morning to you, Clemens. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
And secondly, thanks to your gentleman in the studio. Simple question, Clemens, is that I've been counting, I don't know, there's about 8 or 9 kind of levels that is there from commissioner downwards. Right,
it's about 10.
Yeah, about 10, right? So now remember, below each one, the number of staff or people, you can call them, warm bodies, right through down the level. Is this really necessary to do the work we're doing? Why I'm asking this question, let me tell you why. You know, for me, there seems to be more money going for salaries and all those things rather than for operations. I don't know if the gentleman in the studio is the right person to actually answer this question, but if he can, I'll appreciate that.
Okay, so you want to know about is this ranking necessary and how effective are the police at these different ranks?
Yes.
Okay.
And maybe to tell us where do they get the model from? Because I hear him talking more from
the military,
yeah. Right? How does one then really, differentiate that?
Okay, got you. Larry in Lenasia, thank you. I'll get Jeremy to respond to that. But before that, let's listen to this voice note as well.
Clement, good morning. When I was assisting sometime in one of the police stations, I'm Pronim from Enedale. My name is Shikwan. When I was assisting at this police station, I sort of realized one thing, that policemen who were members of Solidarity Union were getting promoted frequently than those who belong to Pop Crew and other unions. Could this be true or what? But that's what I saw when I was helping, that it looks like most policemen were now going towards joining this union.
Okay, got you. Thank you. Jeremy, those two questions?
I think the first question, I partly answered before. How did these things happen? I explained how the gluts came about with amalgamation. I explained how lateral entrants came in where there's scarce skills. And these were products of our transition, not the politics of now. We already sat with this problem when certain agreements were made during the amalgamation process. And I explained the problem of people who have no operational experience, who can convert after being clerks up to the highest level and become colonels and those things. So firstly, and that I agree is a problem. Our current ranking system has nothing therefore to do with the rationale that ranking ought to have, in a classical military sense of the word, or even in some police. It has absolutely nothing to do with that. It's the product of a certain process that has nothing to do with us. The second thing I wanted to say, that there was a question about where does this come from. Let me tell you, originally back to when Sir Robert Peel was around and whatever afterwards, there was a period where there was a time before where there were no police ranks internationally in policing circles. It is when police institutions start being formed and became almost adopted a state security kind of role to some degree, because the military couldn't work internally anymore. But that is when some of that military ranks came over into the British police, into whatever. But it is not like that anymore. Okay. But we are still like that.
And the issue of unions?
So that needs to be. Yeah?
And the second question about unions?
Right. Speaking about unions, I personally don't know about Solidarity having more ranks than that. What I do know is that within the transition period, and I was there, that's why I'm able to talk to it. Within the transition period, particularly members of the security branch, for example, they were placed out to stations, to some other places, and people in those particular positions jumped 2-3 ranks. Some became station commanders where they had absolute, as colonels. I know about one in Gugulethu, for example, a white guy who was taken in 96, made a station commander and jumped up to the rank of colonel. So yes, I don't want to say a union was responsible for that or not. But it is a practice that when there's unfair promotion, that the challenges to another person being promoted, whom another candidate might feel in a particular application for a post, might feel was not worthy of that because they are better. That the unions get involved in fighting for such candidates.
Yes, got you. Jeremy Very, thank you so much. This has been so insightful. I really appreciate your time. Mbali has the latest Eyewitness News headlines. Mbali, what's driving up inflation?
Well, Clement, a very good morning. Housing and utilities continue to be the biggest drivers of inflation in the country. As a result, annual consumer price inflation rose slightly to 3.1% in March, up from 3.0% in February. Data from Statistics South Africa shows that food prices also continued to contribute, along with higher costs for insurance as well as financial services. To a story now which contains some disturbing details. A 58-year-old man accused of raping a 12-year-old girl in Soweto has abandoned his bail application today. Tsepo Nzimane is accused of luring the young girl from her Dobsonville home to his house before sexually assaulting the minor. Today, the church leader and politician appeared for a second time before the Roodepoort Magistrates Court, facing a charge of rape as well as kidnapping. And suspended police officer Fanning Nkosi has been denied bail by the Pretoria North Magistrates Court. It ruled that he failed to prove that his release is in the interest of justice. Nkosi was arrested earlier this month during a raid at his home. Well, those are the headlines. This EWN and more at midday or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
Well, traveling on the N3 North, we've got delays between the Marlborough Drive exit and the Vincent Chabalala Road. That's due to roadworks that are taking place along this route. Please be on the lookout there. There's also queuing traffic on the R24 West approaching the Kilulis interchange while heading towards Amalgam. Please be on the lookout for some delays on the M2 West between the Crown interchange and Main Reef Road. In the city of Tshwane, we've got queuing traffic on the N1 South just as you approach the Flying Saucer interchange. And that's your last traffic update from me, Mo Ramela. Khomotso Munyai will have your next traffic report from the top of the hour onwards. Stay tuned.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
The Sharing Space
on the Clement Manyathela Show.
7:02.
25 minutes before 12 o'clock. We're going to get into our Sharing Space feature in a moment. But first, let's find out what's coming up on 7:02 afternoons with Relebohile Mabocha. Relebohile, good morning.
Good morning, Clement. Coming up on the show for today in our finance feature, we're going to be unpacking the latest gig economy report. Then we go on to our masterclass and we're going to talk about growing your savings with Standard Bank. But we kick off the show by asking, what did fighting with your siblings as kids teach you, reflecting back as an adult?
That violence doesn't pay. I used to be very physical. Me and my brother used to fight so much. One time, I threw him towards the window in the in my mom's bedroom.
At the window?
Window, and the window broke. And I remember thinking, oh my God. Well, he wasn't really badly hurt. The window was badly destroyed, but he was fine. And I remember thinking, my mom is in a taxi on the way home. I called her because I didn't want her to be shocked. There's a thing when your mom sees something, it shocks her now. She's going to beat you up. So I wanted my mom to rationalize it and think about it so that by the time she gets home, she has already calmed down.
She's already calmed down. Oh my God.
Yeah, that was crazy. I think that was the last physical fight we ever had. We were very young. We were very, 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 very young. We've never had a fight ever again since. Looking forward to that chat.
I look forward to it too. Thanks so much, Clement.
Sub-Zero, Robogile Mabucha, coming up on 7:02 afternoons between 1 and 3 p.m.
In life's most challenging moments of loss, compassion can be your greatest comfort. You shouldn't have to face the financial burden of losing a loved one by yourself. Rest assured, Clientele's funeral plans pay out cash within 24 hours. You can cover up to 13 family members on one plan, ensuring all your loved ones are taken care of, and 3 children are covered at no additional cost. With Clientele, you're not just buying a plan, you're also buying peace of mind. When the time comes, you will need to make important calls with your 200 Rand airtime you will receive when you claim. Plans offer double accidental death cover, as well as transport, grocery and unveiling benefits. Apply today, it's easy. There are no medical examinations and no paperwork. SMS funeral to 31586. That's 31586. Clientele Life is an authorized FSP and licensed life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Many of us take taking a deep breath for granted. But for some infants with RSV, every breath is a battle. Respiratory syncytial virus is a contagious virus that can lead to serious illnesses, including lung infections. Fortunately, protection for infants against RSV is now available in South Africa. Ask your healthcare provider about keeping your baby protected during their first RSV season.
No one gets fit overnight. It takes discipline, and your money is no different. A Nedbank 32-day notice account helps you build financial strength with up to 7.3% interest and 0 maintenance fees. The higher the deposit, the higher the return. Invest in under 2 minutes on the Money app and get money fit with Nedbank. For more information, go to nedbank.co.za. See money differently. Nedbank, we're a licensed FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
The Sharing Space
on the Clement Manyathela Show.
702.
So, the sharing space is all about sharing stories amongst ourselves. So, if you have a story you want to share with us about something that happened in your relationship, at work, with your siblings, with your friends, anything really, while you're on holiday, and it's something you think would pique the interest of our listeners on the show, or maybe you need advice from them, just send us an email on cm@702.co.za. Yeah? So, we've got an email today from a listener, and I'm going to read it and then take your calls. If you can relate with what this listener is saying, what they're sharing with us, or if they're asking you for advice, please be kind enough to give them some advice. So here we go. Hi, Clement and your listeners. I am a 36-year-old gentleman. I have been friends with a lady my age for a while now. We're good friends, but I've noticed that whenever we talk on the phone, the conversation is mostly about her. She is one of my closest friends, and I confide in her about many things, but she seems not to care about my experiences and instead talks about her life. I do not have this experience with my male friends at all. It has become such an issue for me that I'm beginning to feel like our friendship is one-sided. And I would like to know from the 702 lenders if this experience is unique at all. Like, do other people have this experience with their friendships, especially in mixed gender friendships? Regards, Anonymous. Okay, so Anonymous is 36 years old, and he is friends with this female that is the same age. And I think what Anonymous is communicating to us this morning is that he's picking up that every time they speak on the phone, the lady friend makes it about herself. Is that what your experience is? Especially if you're a guy and you've got a very close female friend. Is that your experience? Of course, not everybody is like this friend of Anonymous. I'm sure there are mixed gender friendships that are very much consistent and equal responsibility, not one-sided. But I'd like to know if you are in a similar friendship like Anonymous. And what advice also would you have for Anonymous to engage this friend of his? Because Anonymous says, I don't experience this with other friends. Like some of my male friends, whenever we talk, if I've got an issue, they listen. If they have an issue, I listen. But in this case, the female friend somehow still wants to make the conversation about her. Is this your experience? Anonymous wants to know if this experience is unique. Are there other people that have gone through something similar, especially in mixed gender friendships? Or do you think that Anonymous is just being ridiculous here? Give us a call on 011-883-0702. The WhatsApp line is 072-702-1702. Do you have a friend, and maybe as females as well? I want to hear from you, because maybe there are some of you that feel like it's the guys that actually, whenever you talk to them, they want to make the conversation about themselves. Or maybe you pick up that that's what you do, and maybe you've got a close male friend where Anna is female. Is this something you're picking up in the relationship? I'd like to know. Give us a call or send us a WhatsApp voice note. I'm going to go straight to your calls and WhatsApps after the break.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes on 702.
My show is about your money, and it's about how people have made their money. But it's also about what happened to your money today, what happened on the JSE, what's happening overseas. All of these things, all about the way in which people make their money, spend their money, use their money, and in so many ways, use their money to make more money for them. What I absolutely love about the 702 family and 702 land is the huge warmth of people, the generosity that they show. But I also absolutely love the hustle. Anyone in business is actually trying to improve the economy. They're trying to have an impact on all of us. And there's a go-getting attitude to 702 land that you don't see in so many other places. That's what I really love about 702 land. That getting together and doing something new, and in the process, making money.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes. Weekdays from 6 to 8 p.m.
Joburg is more than just a city. It's an unmistakable rhythm that brings us all together. So in celebration of this, 702 has partnered with Josie My Josie to unite the whole of Joburg in the 702 Josie My Josie Walk the Talk Babiza Bonke. On Sunday, the 26th of July, we're going on a walk through the iconic Joburg CBD, and we want you to join us and be part of something special. Entries open soon, but in the meantime, stay tuned to 702 and get ready for the 702 Josie My Josie Walk the Talk, hosted by the city of Johannesburg. Walk with the people, for our Josie. Babiza Bonke. More on primemediaplus.com.
Insurance pulls you in. Pineapple pulls you under. Insurance. Pineapple. Insurance. Pineapple. Pineapple FSP 48650 is underwritten by Omart Insure Limited, a licensed non-life insurer and authorized FSP.
Still shopping around for a saving here and a deal there? Choose Checkers, SA's #1 in value supermarket. And save on Clover Cheddar or Gouda cheese 800 grams, any two for 219 Rand. Nola mayonnaise 500, 750 or 780 grams for 39.99. And Omo Auto liquid detergent 2 litres or capsules 20 pack, any two for 199 Rand. Valid until 10 May, only at Checkers.
The Sharing Space
on the Clement Manyathela Show.
702.
14 minutes before 12 o'clock, we got an email from Anonymous on our Sharing Space feature today. Anonymous is 36 years old. He's got a friend, a female friend. So Anonymous is a man, 36 years old. He's got a friend who's female, same age. They've been good friends. But Anonymous says he has actually noticed that whenever they talk on the phone or they're having conversations, it's mostly about her. And that's beginning to weigh heavily on him. Because this lady, he really appreciates this lady in his life. They seem to be close friends. They confide in each other. But the lady doesn't take a lot of time to actually hear him. normally she just always makes stuff about her or brings in her own issues instead of actually just listening to this gentleman, Anonymous. So Anonymous is asking, is this a unique experience? Or do other people have this experience with their friendships, especially in mixed gender friendships? Or is this unique to Anonymous? And as a female, I'd like to know what you think, especially if you are in relationships, in friendships like that. 011-883-0702. Let's start with your WhatsApps.
Morning, Madibeng. La novela le nnayo. I have a female friend whom I've kept my distance from because each time you call them, you want to talk about something. They make it about them. Oh yeah, that is why now I do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They no longer give you the room to express yourself because now the whole conversation changes and it becomes about them. I don't know if it's a female thing or what, but I also have that kind of a friend in my life.
That's interesting, hey? But is this something that's only done by ladies? Are you telling me that there are no guys out there who also flip the conversation around and make it about themselves? I'm sure there is. And maybe they're not in the high numbers, but I'm sure there are guys as well who can tend to make the conversation about themselves, no? Yeah, I don't know. Let me know on 011-883-0702. On the WhatsApp line, one listener says, "Hi, Clement. This is so relatable to me. I had a friend like that, and as soon as I started distancing myself, she didn't even reach out. It's the narcissistic personality type." And then another person says, "Clement, I agree with Anonymous. This is the reason I don't have female friends. Females, in my experience, have been uncaring about anyone outside of themselves." Really? Okay. I really would like to hear from females as well. What do you make of this perception that seemingly exists about gents that you are friends with? Do you think that you tend to make it about yourself? Do you think you tend to make it about yourself, or do you give space to your male friends to also express themselves? I mean, what happens then in female friendships then, if really this is a perception, if this were to be true? I mean, that would be quite wild, wouldn't it? Let me know your thoughts. WhatsApps 072-702-1702.
Hi, Clement. How are you? Good, man. Your topic. I've had a few number of women friends, and I had to cut them off because I started to realize it becomes a burden, emotionally and financially and otherwise. They're friends, but you end up having this was all the time. They always have these issues. You must always listen to their emotional dynamics and things, relationships. Oof, it's like you're having, I don't know how to explain it, girlfriends that you're not intimate with. And it's such a burden, I ended up cutting it. Nonsense. Now I'm okay with the guys. And then I'm okay, because it becomes so burdensome. You see, now I call them because even when they call you now, if somebody touch base, it's when they need something. Either it's an emotional issue that they're going through. It just becomes a heavy relationship to be with. Yeah, no. Tabo in Centurion.
Yo, Tabo, thank you for sharing that. But you're saying you are overburdened financially as well. What kind of a friend is that? I mean, you must never feel like that. And I mean, I don't care that as a lady, you may think that, yeah, I don't believe in buying myself a drink. Excuse me? I'm your friend, and maybe you can have that expectation out there, right? When you're out on a date. But to overburden someone financially to a point where they must look after you as a friend, that's a bit wild.
Good morning, Clement. I don't think this is about the gender. There are male people who behave like Anonymous's friend. Selfish people. Everything is centered around them. I know some relatives of mine who are like that. So it is all about the friend's character, not because she's female. My advice, Anonymous, is speak to your friend. Make her aware that she's being selfish. She must learn to listen to you. Thanks, Tembi.
Hi, Clement. I have a similar experience with a guy friend whom we've been friends for the longest. Each time I pick up the call, it would never be about me. I mean, at best, I would want to share my challenges. And while saying this is what's happening to me, he takes over and makes it about himself. And that conversation would be about himself. I've stopped talking to them as a result of that.
Good morning, Clemens. Yeah, I used to do that a lot. You know, when talking to friends, you make everything about yourself. Until after reading somewhere, I think I read somewhere, it was a podcast. So when I realized, oh, actually, what I'm doing is wrong. So I think we both do it, both males and females. Rodney, thank you.
I thought so. I mean, surely it can't just be. I don't think it's much of a gender issue. I'm sure there are some guys out there that when you talk to, they just make it about themselves. But I'm so interested in this burden that listener mentioned, like emotional burden, financial burden. A financial burden, in mixed gender friendships, is there an expectation that you must be financially responsible for that friend, that female friend, or that male friend? Is there are there expectations like that exist in mixed gender friendships? Lebo, you're in Krugersdorp. Good morning.
Hi, Clement.
Hey, Tara.
Yeah, now I was indicating with you, this thing, it is like going through these seasons. There were times when my male friend was going through things, and most of the time I knew I had to listen to him and his challenges and advice where I can advise. And if it's the same with me, he would do the same thing. But it's about you understanding who you are dealing with and what type of a person. Nothing is stopping you from saying, hi, friend, listen to me for a change.
Yeah.
You know, but at the same time, even guys are like that. They do talk about themselves. I had a friend from high school, and then we grew up together, university and everything. When he had financial problems, he will also come to me. He didn't know how to manage his finances, but he will come to me to borrow money. Luckily, he was paying me back.
Okay.
But it got to a point where you also get tired because he will be quiet for a while, and only when he has a problem, he will call you.
Yeah, no. That's also wrong. You don't just come to me when you need help, eh? Lebo in Krugersdorp, thank you.
Hi, Clement. About the friends, I think it's in the intent. So I usually say to my friends, I need to tell you this. I need your advice. I need you to listen because I still want to do this, but I want to just tell somebody, or I need to listen to you with no advice. So here's the story. So I think intent is important, and then people then sort of like they know what they need to give you. Maybe the poor lady just doesn't know what the guy is looking for at that time.
Hey there, loving your show. Okay, so there's a saying that goes, you hate that which you most need to learn. So if you hate it when your partner switches the conversation around to talk about them, it's because you do it yourself and you recognize it in other people because you actually hate it in yourself. Just food for thought.
Hi, Clement. I think it's not a gender thing. It depends on your personality, because I know I'm that type of person who I guess people feel comfortable sharing their problems with. And it does become quite heavy at times because you feel that, every time you want to go out for coffee, but it's going to be a session of complaints and problems. And I have female friends and male friends that do that. So I don't think it's a gender thing. I think it depends on the personality of the person that's listening.
Hi, Clement. It is so sad to hear how gentlemen are talking about having female friends. But I am thinking that sometimes when you are speaking to a male friend or just any other friend, when you are giving them advice, you want to show that you can relate by maybe narrating your story and not actually realizing that now the topic is about you. So I think this gentleman should just talk to the friend and make her realize that so far this is how our relationship has been, unlike just cutting her off and just letting a good relationship go.
Anonymous, talk to your friend. Talk to your bestie.
Aubrey Masango.
Weekday evenings,
8 to midnight.
Elon Musk, this sudden need to develop the rural areas, the poor people of South Africa, by the entrance of Starlink to South Africa. But you got to ask yourself that if this country is such a genocidal, racist, evil country, why would you want to do business with those people? If the entrance of Starlink is going to improve the lives of the poor people in the rural areas, why isn't it not doing the same thing in Zimbabwe or Lesotho? We're not seeing too much development happening there.
Aubrey Masango.
8 to midnight on 702.
702.
We all know that hustle, trying and yet battling to reach the right customers. That's how a lot of businesses start, and your marketing budget can only take you so far. With MTN Business, you don't have to rely on just one channel anymore. You can reach your customers wherever they are through WhatsApp marketing, bulk SMSs, and digital tools. So instead of battling, reach the right customers with MTN digital tools. Let's talk shop. Click on mtn.co.za/business or visit an MTN store today. MTN Business, Africa's leading enabler of connectivity and converged solutions.
You can become a victim of a legal problem: wrongful arrest, assault, uncontested divorce, rental disputes, maintenance matters, or labor problems. It can happen to you. Clientele Legal provides tough professional lawyers for an affordable monthly premium. Our legal team is standing by to assist you 24 hours a day. Join today. SMS Legal to 48721. That's legal to 48721. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
It's 6 a.m. in Kenya. Victor's little sister starts high school today, but her fees need to be paid first. Back in Jersey, Victor logs onto the Absa banking app and sends her money and a little extra for lunch. It arrives instantly.
Your money makes their world go round. Send cash to 18 countries across the world with Absa Global Pay. It's safe, instant, and affordable. Your story matters. Absa is an authorized FSP and a registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Coming up
on the Midday Report
with Mandy Wiener.
Good morning, Mandy.
Good morning,
What's
Clement.
popping?
So inflation figures are out. What's very interesting is that once a year they do this education study, and it tells us how we're paying a lot more for particularly private high schools in South Africa. So we're going to unpack that data. Sergeant Fanny Nkosi has been denied bail. He'll have to stay behind bars. The Aman Swat murder case, that's back in the spotlight at the Madlanga Commission. The Constitutional Court has upheld the SCA's decision on the powers of the Human Rights Commission, so we'll speak to the Human Rights Commission. And the IEC saying that it is funded for the upcoming local government elections. We'll speak to the CFO.
That's the Midday Report. Up next, after the news at 12. Thanks for listening to the show. I'll be back with you on Friday between 9 and 12. Tomorrow, you can catch me, though, on 702 Breakfast. They've asked me to help out, stand in for Bongani, so I'll be on breakfast tomorrow between 6 and 9. But I'll be back with you on, next week, Monday. So, chat to you tomorrow at 6. Have a beautiful day, my friends. Bye-bye.
This is EWN.
Good afternoon. I'm Bali Dlamini. Housing and utilities continue to be the biggest drivers of inflation in the country. As a result, annual consumer price inflation rose slightly to 3.1% in March, up from 3.0% in February. Data from Statistics South Africa shows that food prices also continue